Jamie wants his mother to buy him a doll for a birthday present. She does, and a journey of discovery begins for both of them. My son James, I call him Jamie, got a gift certificate to the local mall toy store from his Aunt Karen for his 6th birthday, which was in July. July 5th to be exact. From the time he was a baby, we took him to the town fireworks and told him they were for him. At least we did until my husband Jim, he was James too, and our son was James, Jr., so we called his dad Jim and him Jamie for short, died 2 years ago. He was a technician for an environmental control company and maintained the emissions monitoring equipment they installed at power plants all over the country. They discovered him at the bottom of one of the stacks. The OSHA investigation found that the access ladder lacked a safety cage. We got a very sizable settlement from the utility company. It paid off the mortgage and meant that I didn't have to work, but it was still a struggle raising a little boy without a father. It was hard on Jamie too. On the Saturday after Jamie's birthday, I drove us to the mall so that he could pick out a toy. We went into the store and walked up and down the aisles. I followed along behind him as he went past shelves of police cars, fire engines, bulldozers, trains, planes, games of all descriptions, building sets, and then he turned the corner and was in the girls' section, with an array of dolls and accessories. I expected him to go back to the boys' toys, but instead he stopped in front of a very pretty doll, about a foot tall, in a pink party dress. I watched and waited as he took it off the shelf and examined it. Turning to me he asked, "Mommy, can I have this one?" I was taken by surprise at his picking out a doll, and it took a few seconds for me to answer him. "No, honey, dolls are for girls," I told him. "Why are dolls for girls?" he asked me naively. "Because girls play with dolls to practice for when they're mommies." I explained as simply as I could to a 6-year-old. "Oh," he said, looking down at the doll and then up at me. "If I play with a doll, will I be a mommy?" he asked with a child's confused logic. "No, Jamie," I told him patiently. "Only girls can be mommies. Boys grow up to be daddies." "Why can't boys be mommies?" he persisted. I knelt down to talk with him. "In order to be a mommy, you have to have a baby. Only girls can have babies." "Why?" he asked me. I really did not want to get into an explanation of female reproductive anatomy with a 6-year-old in the middle of a toy store. "Jamie," I tried to simplify, "girls and boys are, well, their bodies are different. It's the way they're born, sweetie. Now, why don't you put the doll back and we'll go find a different toy? Then we can go get an ice cream cone," I offered as encouragement. He continued to hold the doll and looked disappointed. "Do I have to?" he asked. I didn't want to upset him. He had enough trauma in his young life. Maybe having a doll was his way of finding comfort, an understanding companion with whom he could share his feelings. Jamie's aunt, my sister Karen, the one who gave him the gift certificate that started all this, was a psychologist. I remembered when she was in graduate school she had an internship with one of the social service agencies counseling abused children, and that she told me how they used dolls to get the children to act out painful memories. "Jamie, why do you want a doll?" He shrugged. "I don't know. If it was some type of a need for an emotional outlet, I supposed he wouldn't be able to explain it. The more I thought about it, the more I couldn't come up with a good reason not to let him have it. I mean, besides the usual stereotype. I decided to change my approach. "Jamie, if I bought you the doll, would you play with her?" I intentionally used the feminine pronoun to emphasize that he was buying a girl doll. "Yes," he replied, looking up at me hopefully. "Honey, people might not understand why a boy would play with a doll," I cautioned him. "They might make fun of you. If I buy you the doll, you have to promise to keep it a secret. Not to tell anyone. You'll have to keep it in my room, so, If you have any friends over, they won't see it. Is that okay? I was hoping that he would decide he didn't want to go through all of that, just to play with a doll, but to my surprise he agreed. All right then, sweetie, let's see if I can find one that's boxed. I reached out and he handed me the doll. I stood up and looked on the shelf where she came from. There was a box with a plastic cover holding an identical doll. I took it down and showed it to him. Jamie nodded his approval. I put the doll back on the shelf. He reached up to take the box, but I shook my head. I'll hold it, honey, not wanting anyone to question why a boy had a doll. I suppose it could have been a present for one of his cousins. Karen had 2 girls, and the older one, Debbie, was Jamie's age. We got married at the same time, a double wedding, which saved Dad a lot of money, and we had our first baby within a month of each other. Jim got a promotion to senior technician right after Jamie was born, which meant more money, which we could use, but it also meant he would have to do more traveling. We held off having another baby, while Karen didn't, so Amy, her youngest child, was 4.5. Even so, I preferred not having to explain if we ran into someone I knew. As we walked to the sales counter, I rehearsed to myself, "Oh, hello, Sarah. I'm well, thank you. Hi, Susie. Jamie, say hello to Mrs. Kraft and Susie. Shopping for a birthday present. Us too. Oh, yes, it is a pretty doll, Susie. You have a pretty doll too? I'm sure. It's a present for one of my nieces. Yes, nice seeing you too, Sarah. Bye. Bye, Susie. No need for that." When we reached the register, I handed the box to the salesgirl. It rang up at $29.95, $31.45 with tax. I was so surprised by Jamie's choice of the doll that I hadn't even looked at the price. His gift certificate was for $25. My sister and I didn't believe in giving each other's kids expensive gifts. I had already told Jamie he could have the doll as his present and I didn't want to go back on what I said, so I took out my credit card and paid the difference. Not that it was the money. We could afford it. It just seemed wasteful to spend that much on a toy he would probably not play with once he got it home. At least I couldn't picture him playing with it. Not that a boy couldn't play with a doll, but girls grow up with them. Oh well, I thought to myself, I can keep the box and return it. The salesgirl handed me the credit card slip. I signed it and she put the doll in a plastic bag. "Do you want the receipt in the bag?" she asked. "No, thank you," I told her, wanting to make sure that it didn't get lost, so I could take it back. "Oh, and this is a gift," I added for insurance. "What is your return policy?" 10 days, with the receipt for a full cash or charge refund. Otherwise only a store credit. "But I can give you a gift receipt that makes it 30 days, she informed me. "Yes, please." She ran up another receipt and handed it to me. "Thank you," I said, putting it in my wallet with the original receipt. "You're welcome." I held the bag in my left hand and reached down to Jamie with my right. He took my hand and we left the store. Walking through the mall, we passed an ice cream stand and I remembered that I had offered to buy him a cone. I stopped and he asked for his favorite, vanilla ice cream with rainbow sprinkles. I had them put it upside down in a cup, so he could eat it with a spoon. I ordered a small dish of maple walnut for myself. We sat at one of the little tables. Watching him, I wondered if maybe I was being too fussy. So what if he got messy? I remembered Jim digging into a juicy burger smothered in ketchup, his favorite when we went out, and always having to remind him to use his napkin. Jamie spent a lot of time around me. Maybe he was getting the wrong message? We finished our ice cream and walked back to the car. I put the bag with the doll in the back seat and buckled Jamie in. When we got home, I brought the bag into the kitchen and took out the box. Jamie reached for it, but I stopped him. "Hold on, honey. The doll has to be taken out of the box carefully," I cautioned him. "And I don't want you to mess up the packaging, so I can take it back when you're through with it," I thought to myself. The clear plastic top was held on by tape. I used my nail to peel it off the plastic, leaving it still attached to the cardboard box. I had not looked at the doll carefully in the store, and now I saw that it came with accessories: a small pink pocketbook with a white plastic handle, a pink plastic headband with 3 white flowers, a pink plastic hairbrush with a flower decal, a matching mirror and a comb. The doll was fastened to the cardboard liner with plastic ties around her neck and waist. I lifted the liner out and turned it over, using a scissors to carefully cut the plastic, releasing the doll. The accessories were basted onto the cardboard with white thread, which I also cut. I picked up the doll, put on her headband and handed her to Jamie. He took her and held her by the arm, the way a child would dangle a stuffed animal. "No, Jamie," I explained patiently. "The doll is fragile and you have to be gentle with her." Here, I took the doll and cradled it in my left arm, holding it securely with my right hand resting on its tummy. "See." I handed the doll back to him. He copied me and looked up for my approval. I nodded and smiled at him, although I felt funny teaching my son how to hold a doll. Then again, Jim came to birthing class with me and he had to be shown how to hold the baby after it was born, so there was no harm in starting early, was there? Jamie started to leave and I called after him to wait. He stopped and I brought him the accessories. He was using both hands to hold the doll, so I tucked the purse into his right pants pocket and the comb, brush and mirror into his left one. He hurried upstairs. I followed him to the stairs and called after him, "Jamie, remember, play with the doll in my room, please." That way I could be sure it wouldn't get left in his room by accident if he had a friend over, and it was also less likely to get dirty if it wasn't around his other toys, so I wouldn't have a problem returning it. He disappeared at the top of the stairs. I went back to the kitchen, carefully saved all the packaging materials and put the box on the top shelf of the hall coat closet, remembering with a twinge of sadness that was where Jim and I always hid Jamie's birthday and Christmas presents. Passing by the front door, I noticed that the mail had been delivered through the slot and picked it up from the floor. The usual supermarket circulars, a gas bill, and a fall department store catalog. That reminded me it was almost time for Jamie to start kindergarten and I need to take him shopping for some school clothes. Maybe next weekend, I thought, hoping that by then he would be done with the doll too and I could return it. I took the mail into the kitchen and put a cup of water with a chamomile tea bag into the microwave. When it was ready, I sat down at the counter and sipped the tea while browsing through the catalog. The first section was women's clothes. Plaids were back. So were long skirts and boots. I hadn't updated my wardrobe for years. Since Jim died, most of my time was spent with Jamie. Now that he was starting school, I would have more free time, but nothing to do. Since I had my LPN certificate, I suppose I could volunteer at the hospital. Even so, I didn't need any clothes. Lingerie was next. I skipped over that with a sigh. Then came cosmetics and perfume. None of that interested me. The drugstore's brands were good enough. Girls' school clothes followed. Pretty wool jumpers and kilts in bright plaids were featured, silky polyester blouses in coordinating powder blue, yellow, green and pink, red and blue nylon tights, pretty undies, and shoes with ankle straps and little heels. Finally, 2 pages of boys' clothes. Tan cotton pants and corduroys in dark colors, blue, green and brown, plaid cotton flannel shirts. Plaid was definitely in with a vengeance, sneakers with Velcro fasteners and shoes with laces. The same things Jamie always wore. He hadn't grown much over the summer, so everything still fit him, but a boy should have new school clothes. Looking at the clock, I was surprised it had been almost an hour since we got home. I decided to check on Jamie. I rinsed out my teacup and put it in the dishwasher, then went upstairs. There were 3 bedrooms on the second floor. Ours, well, mine now, was front to back on the right and Jamie's was the front left. I peeked in his first, but he wasn't there. I went to the doorway to our bedroom and saw him sitting on the bed. He was holding the doll and speaking softly, but I couldn't hear what he was saying. I wish I could have known whether he was pouring his heart out or just talking make-believe, but I didn't want to disturb him. He didn't see me and I quietly stepped back and went downstairs. In one sense I was disappointed. I had hoped that Jamie's lack of experience playing with dolls would frustrate him and that he would return to his familiar boys' toys. Then again, he seemed happy, which was what I wanted for him more than anything. All I could do was wait and see how it worked out. I should call Karen and get some professional advice, I thought. When I got back to the kitchen, I looked at the clock on the microwave. It was 4:30, time to start getting dinner ready. Karen was probably busy with her family too, and I wanted to wait until Jamie was in bed, so that I could talk to her without him overhearing. Little pitchers have big ears, Mother used to say, when she wanted Daddy not to talk while we were around. I took out a package of macaroni and cheese, Jamie's favorite, and put a pot of water on the stove to boil. About a half hour later, it was ready. "Jamie," I called up to him, "dinner's ready. Please wash up and come down." I went back into the kitchen and finished putting our dinner on the table. As I was pouring him a glass of milk, I saw him coming out of the corner of my eye. He had the doll in his arms. "Jamie, we don't bring toys to the table," I reminded him. I walked over and held out my hand to take the doll. "Sit down, honey. I'll put the doll on the stairs. You can play with her after dinner." He handed her to me. I put the doll on the bottom step and went back to the table. "Well, Jamie," I said, making small talk, "have you thought of a name for your doll?" Of all things, I don't know why that came out. The last thing I wanted to do was encourage him to become more attached to the doll. He shook his head and took a forkful of macaroni and cheese. "Do dolls have names?" he asked. Of course girls gave their dolls names, but he wouldn't know that. Now that I had said it, I couldn't very well tell him no. Yes. When I was a girl, I had a doll named Cricket. I didn't give her that name. There was a storybook about a girl named Cricket that came with her. Your Aunt Karen had a doll she named Cindy Lou, after the little girl in the Dr. Seuss book about the Grinch. You remember her, the littlest Who? She is nice to the Grinch and saves Christmas for Whoville. Jamie smiled and nodded, taking another forkful of macaroni and a drink of milk. "Jamie," he said. "That's your name, yes, honey," I agreed. "No, Mommy, the doll's name is Jamie," he corrected me. "You and the doll have the same name?" I questioned him. "Uh-huh," he confirmed. "Wouldn't you like to give her a girl's name?" I tried to think of the girls in the Disney videos we watched. How about Belle, the girl in Beauty and the Beast? He shook his head. What about Jasmine, the princess in Aladdin? That's a very pretty name, girl's name, and it kind of sounds like Jamie. Would you like to name her Jasmine? He shook his head and took another forkful of macaroni. I was at a loss. Why did he want to give the doll his name? If he was telling her his troubles, maybe he identified with her. Just because it was a girl to me, didn't mean it was a girl to a 6-year-old boy. Maybe it was just a friend whose sex didn't matter. Or, I continued to consider, his father's name was James and we named him James too, so, he might think that a child is named after his father. You know, if your name is Jamie and the doll's name is Jamie, it might be confusing. How about if we call you Jamie and we call the doll Jamie Girl? I suggested. The distinction didn't seem to make a difference to him, which made me think that maybe my first explanation was right. He took another forkful of macaroni and shrugged. We finished dinner and I cleared the table. Jamie got up to leave. Hold on, sweetie. You didn't finish your milk. Do you want a cookie to go with it for dessert? He shook his head and drank down the last of the glass. He looked up at me. Okay, honey, you're excused. Oh, I called after him, I want to give you a bath in about half an hour. I'll let you know when it's time. Jamie scampered out. Through the doorway I could see him pick up the doll and go upstairs. I finished cleaning up and putting the dishes in the dishwasher. Then I went into the den and turned on the TV to watch the 6 o'clock news. When it was over, I went upstairs and started to run a bath. I looked into my bedroom to check on Jamie. He was sitting on the floor with the doll in his lap. I noticed that he wasn't playing house. I suppose he didn't have the right accessories. My sister and I had to play stove and kitchen items, even pretend food. Or dress up, but then the doll didn't have a wardrobe. My sister and I had boxes full of doll clothes. Or school. That wouldn't require any props. Or even beauty parlor, since he had the comb and brush. Maybe I was right, that a little boy wouldn't know how to play with a doll and that he would be bored soon. Jamie, I said softly, so as not to startle him, your bath is ready, honey. Put the doll on my bed and go get undressed. He did as I asked. I went into the bathroom to wait for him. A few minutes later he came in wearing just his white briefs and white socks. Okay, honey, take off your underwear and hop in. I checked the temperature of the water with my hand as I waited for him to finish undressing. Jamie got in and I took out some of his usual bath toys from the plastic bin we kept them in, a motorboat, a sailboat, a plastic whale and a rubber shark. I watched him play normally, which was a relief. I'll come back in 15 minutes, I told him. I went into my room and picked up a woman's magazine. I thumbed through it, skipping over the articles on how to improve your sex life, natural cures for yeast infections after you improved your sex life, and looked for some recipes that might spice up. I laughed at my little pun, our meals. I mean, there's only so much hamburger, pasta and pizza you can eat. Jim used to love a good steak or roast and we both enjoyed shrimp and scallops, not so much fish, but we had it occasionally for variety. Now I had no one to cook for. I looked over at the clock on my nightstand and it had been about 20 minutes. Jamie was probably getting waterlogged. I went into the bathroom and he was still playing with his bath toys. A good sign, I reassured myself. Okay, honey. I want to wash your hair. I took a small plastic bucket I used for clean rinse water and the baby shampoo out from under the vanity. Jamie was a redhead, like his father, the McCarthy's Irish heritage, and it was wavy. He hadn't had a haircut in 2 months. I let it grow over the summer, figuring that I would give him a haircut before school. I filled the bucket with warm water from the tap and dumped it over his head. Then I lathered in the shampoo, rinsed, holding my hand over his eyes to keep the soapy water out, even though it was baby shampoo, and repeated. When I had finished, I soaped up a washcloth and handed it to him to wash himself. I supervised, making sure that he got his feet and under his arms. Then I took the washcloth, rinsed it out, re-soaped it and did his face and ears. When he was squeaky clean, I had him stand up and step out of the tub. Okay, sweetie, scoot into your room and put on clean underpants and your PJs, I directed him, once I had toweled him dry. Then come back and brush your teeth. After he left, I took his toys out of the tub and put them in the bin. Jamie returned wearing his light blue shorty animal print pajamas. I supervised him while he brushed his teeth, a full minute on the uppers, equal time on the lowers, and a good rinse with Kids Plaque removing mouthwash. I believe it's important to develop good oral hygiene habits early. Okay, honey, scoot into your bedroom. I'll be there in a minute to read you a bedtime story. The tub had drained by the time he was done, so I finished cleaning up the bathroom, using the towel to wipe down the tub and hanging it and the wet washcloth on the towel bar. I turned out the bathroom light and went into his bedroom. To my surprise, he had gotten the doll out of my room and was holding it, looking at me expectantly. Jamie, I told you, the doll has to stay in my room, I reminded him. Besides, dolls aren't sleeping toys. They're not cuddly and her dress will get all wrinkled. If you want something to sleep with, I can get you one of your old stuffed animals. He looked at me and shook his head. Look, sweetie, I'll put the doll on the big chair in my room. She'll be very comfortable there, as if she were real, and you can come get her as soon as you wake up, if you want to play with her, which I hoped he wouldn't. Okay? He shook his head. Why not? Jamie wants to hear the story too. It took me a few seconds to realize that the Jamie he was referring to was the doll. Oh, you want her to stay while I read to you? Uh-huh, he said with a smile. I nodded my concession. Going over to the bookcase, I looked for one of the fairy tales he enjoyed. We had a collection of the Disney versions and some of the Golden Book abridged stories too. I wanted to find one with a strong male character, hoping to offset at least some of the doll's effect. Cinderella, no. Sleeping Beauty, no. Snow White, no. Beauty and the Beast, no. Rapunzel, no, the main character is a girl with long hair. Rumpelstiltskin, no, the title is about the dwarf, but the story is about the miller's daughter who outsmarts him and saves her baby. Was there a conspiracy among children's books authors only to write about girls? Finally, I came up with Jack and the Beanstalk. Not that it was my favorite. I mean, a homicidal kid who destroys a natural wonder in order to steal someone else's property is not my idea of a role model, but at least he was a boy. I brought the book over and got on the bed. Jamie put the doll on the pillow between us. Once upon a time, there was a poor widow who had an only son named Jack, I began. I continued through the story, showing Jamie the pictures of Jack trading their cow for the magic beans, and so forth. By the time I got to Jack going back the second time for the hen that laid the golden eggs, Jamie's eyes were closing, and by the third trip for the singing harp, I could tell by his rhythmic breathing that he had fallen asleep. I picked up the doll, got up, turned out the light and left, keeping his door open just enough to let in a bit of the light from the hall. I took the doll and brought it into my room, smoothing its dress, the way I used to do with Cricket, and sitting her on the upholstered chair next to the window. It was too early to call Karen and I had nothing else to do, so I got undressed, put on my nightgown, did my nightly beauty routine, old habits die hard, and got on the bed to watch TV. I went through the channels and found a dance program. Jim and I used to love to dance when he was home. Not ballroom. He thought that was for sissies. Rock and roll at one of the clubs when we were able to get a babysitter. I picked up my magazine and continued to go through it, looking up now and then to watch a bit of the show. I kept glancing at the clock and finally, at about 8:30, I couldn't wait any longer. Karen would be done with dinner and Debbie probably went to bed around 7 or 7:30, like Jamie, so she should be free by now. I pushed 1 on the speed dial. I called Karen more often than anyone else. The phone rang 3 times and she picked up. Hello, she answered. Hi, sis. Ginny, hi. I was just thinking of you and Jamie. I took Debbie shopping for school clothes today and wondered if you were doing the same? No, not yet. Girls are much higher maintenance than boys. As you might remember, Miss, I can't go to school in old clothes. All Jamie needs is a couple of pairs of pants, a few shirts, and a pair of sneakers. Who, me? She replied with a laugh. I thought that was you. Me? I was the one who got your hand-me-downs, as if you don't remember. I just bought this for your sister last year and it's almost like new, Ginny dear, Mom would always say. Good thing you have the boobs in the family though. At least I got to have my own bras. Not that I wouldn't rather have been a C than a B. So, is that why you called, to complain about your breast size? Karen kidded me. You know they do wonders with silicone, if you're still jealous. No, actually there was another reason, Karen. I was hoping you could give me some advice. I'm worried about Jamie. Oh, Karen said with concern, is he acting up? That's not unusual, Ginny, when a child has lost a parent. Maybe he could use some counseling. I can check around for a child therapist in your area. Maybe it would be good for both of you, she suggested. No, we're both fine. Well, you know, we're okay. The problem with Jamie isn't his behavior. He's a perfect angel. In fact, that's the problem, sort of. I'm sorry, Ginny, I don't get it. How can his not being a problem be a problem? I sighed. Let me start at the beginning. Karen listened patiently. Today I took Jamie shopping. Just like you took Debbie, I added, although it wasn't for clothes. We went to the toy store to use the gift certificate you gave him for his birthday. Karen kept quiet. To make a long story short, he picked out a doll. You mean one of those action figures? I wouldn't worry about it, Ginny. Boys tend to be more aggressive in their fantasy play than girls. I'm not a big fan of war toys, but they promote them heavily on TV and the consensus is that they're harmless. No, Karen, not an action figure, a girl doll in a pink party dress, like Cindy Lou. A girl doll? Karen questioned. Yes, I confirmed. I see. She paused and then asked me, if you were concerned about the appropriateness of his picking out a doll, why didn't you tell him he couldn't have it? I sighed again. I did. Or at least I tried. What did you say to him? I told him that dolls were for girls and suggested he find something else. And he asked me why. What did you tell him? I told him that girls played with dolls to practice for when they became mommies. He didn't accept that? He asked me whether he would be a mommy if he got the doll. I could hear an intake of breath as Karen stifled a laugh at the humorous question. What did you tell him? I said that only girls could be mommies. Boys grow up to be daddies. Go on. He asked me why. I told him that boys' and girls' bodies were different. That's about as far as it went. I encouraged him to find another toy, even tried to entice him back into the boys' toy aisle with an offer of ice cream, but he really wanted the doll. I paused and then continued. Karen, I just couldn't think of a good reason not to let him have it and I didn't want to tell him no without a good reason. He's been through a lot and I thought, well, maybe he needed a companion. There's just the two of us. I mean, kids have imaginary friends. Maybe he was being more realistic. Or maybe it was just one of those childish whims and he would get tired of it quickly. What do boys know about playing with dolls? I saved the packaging, so I can return it. Has he gotten tired of it, Ginny? No, not yet, but it's only been a day. If you think that he will give it up, why are you concerned? I'm not concerned. I'm just curious. I was hoping you could give me some help on how to deal with the situation. Ginny, curious means looking something up in Dr. Spock's book. Concerned means calling your sister and asking her for advice about your son's behavior. The first step to solving a problem is admitting you have one. That is what I tell my patients. Having said that, I have to tell you, it is not considered good practice to counsel your family. You can't have the necessary professional detachment, and if something turns out badly, and psychology is not an exact science, you can damage your relationship with someone you care about. It's okay, Karen, I understand. You can't help me. I'm sorry I asked. Ginny, no, I didn't say I couldn't help you. I said I couldn't counsel you. The difference is between providing general advice and getting myself personally involved. Let's start with identifying what is really bothering you, and then we can look at how to deal with it. Okay, sis? Okay, Karen. All right, then. I assume your basic question is whether it is harmful for a boy to play with a girl's toy. The short answer is no. Toys aren't gender specific. It's our society that makes the distinction. Think about it, Karen. If Jim were alive, she waited to see if she had touched a painful subject. Go ahead, I reassured her. Fathers are concerned about their sons being manly, much more so than mothers. Jim never would have allowed you to buy Jamie a doll. I'm sure Dave, that was Karen's husband, would be equally opposed to it if we had a boy, even with my assurance that it was harmless. You would have told Jamie that his father would not allow it, end of story. Without that masculine constraint, you had no excuse, and the fact that Jamie's been through a lot made it even easier for you to give in. I'm relieved that I didn't do anything wrong. Thank you so much, sis. I don't know what I would do without you. Ginny, you never have to do without me. I'll always be here for you, but not so fast. Although there is no harm in a boy playing with a doll, children can be very cruel. His friends will not be as understanding as his mother and aunt. In that regard, you may not have done him a favor. I'm sorry, Ginny, but you asked and I have to give you the full answer. Well, I did tell him he only could play with the doll in my room, in case he has friends over, and I also told him not to talk about it either. Do you think that will prevent him from being teased? Ginny, I told you, I can't give you personal advice. You have to make your own decision and live with it. So will Jamie. Is it more important for him to have the doll and whatever enjoyment it gives him, or more important to protect him from being hurt if he can't keep it a secret? You know him better than I do. You know how vulnerable he is, and you know his needs. If you want to talk it over with someone, I can find you a therapist. No, not right now anyway. Like I said, it's only been a day. As long as having it isn't bad for him, I'll wait and see what happens. I'm still hoping he'll lose interest and I can return it. I remembered that we had all sorts of doll stuff and each other or our girlfriends to play with to make it fun. Okay, Ginny. Please call me in a couple of days and let me know what happens. I will, Karen, and thanks. No problem. Love you. Love you too. Bye. I felt relieved as I hung up the phone. It was 9 o'clock. I picked up a book I had started and read a few more chapters. At 10:30, I put the book down. I decided to get up early and make Jamie his favorite breakfast, chocolate chip pancakes, hoping that his coming right down to breakfast would make him forget about the doll. Then I would take him to the park. He could use the wooden playground and feed the ducks in the pond. He liked that, and it would get us out of the house. We could stop for a burger and fries on the way home. Maybe, I thought, he had been spending too much time around. Jim would have taken him out in the backyard to play a sport. He was a big baseball and football fan, or even to a game. I played field hockey in high school, but they didn't have girls' sports teams when I was growing up. Do they have teams for 6-year-olds? Soccer was popular. I should look into it. Jamie definitely needed to be around men and other boys more. Jamie usually woke up about 7, so I set the alarm for 6:30. I got up to look in on him, then got into bed and turned out the light. The alarm went off and I got up, put on a robe and went down to start breakfast. On my way I checked on Jamie. He was asleep and the doll was next to him. He must have come into my bedroom during the night. Children, at last 6-year-olds, have no sense of time. He probably got up thinking that it was morning and then fell asleep playing with it. I decided not to take the doll away from him. I didn't want him to wake up and worry about what happened to it. Well, so much for the diversion of chocolate chip pancakes. Even so, I might as well make them, since I was already up. I could still follow my plan to get him out of the house and away from the doll for the day. Since I no longer had to have breakfast ready before he woke up, I went back to my room, washed up, put on some makeup, tied my hair back with a scrunchie, and went down to the kitchen. I mixed up the batter, but waited to make the pancakes until Jamie came down. I expected that he would sleep late. Who knew when he got up or how long he played before his wee-hour excursion caught up with him? At about 9:15, I had him moving around upstairs and a few minutes later he appeared in the kitchen. He had the doll with him. Jamie, I chided him, I told you before, we don't bring toys to the table. And, I added, you should not have taken the doll out of my room without asking me. You were sleeping, Mommy, he explained. I was sleeping because it was nighttime and you should have been sleeping too. Not wandering around the house and not playing with your toys. It was dark when you woke up, wasn't it? That's nighttime. If you need something, you can call me and I'll come, but you need to stay in bed. It's not safe for you to be walking around the house when I'm not up and I don't want you taking things out of my room without asking me. Okay? He agreed sheepishly. Good. Now, here's the story. I made you chocolate chip pancakes. Sit down and have your breakfast. I'll put the doll on the stairs. After breakfast, you can get dressed and we'll go to the park. Then we can get a burger for lunch. How does that sound? Jamie nodded his approval and then he asked, can Jamie come too? I sighed with exasperation. No, you need to leave your doll at home. I told you about not letting anyone know you had her. Remember. It is important, I emphasized. Some of the other boys and girls might not understand. Jamie, if you can't keep it a secret, then I will have to take the doll back, I warned him. No, Mommy, please, he said excitedly. Please don't take Jamie back. I won't tell. Honest. Please, Mommy, please? I didn't say I was going to take her back, honey, I relented. I only wanted to be sure you understood that you can't tell anyone about her. If you do, I will have to take her away, but not otherwise. Okay? Okay, he conceded. Okay, I agreed. Eat up and then we'll get ready to go out. It will be a fun day. Especially for me, if I don't have to deal with the doll, I added to myself. After breakfast we went upstairs. Jamie washed up and brushed his teeth. I combed his hair. He really did need a haircut. I had him change his underpants and picked out a light blue cotton t-shirt and dark blue shorts with an elastic waist. White cotton socks and a pair of sneakers completed his outfit. We got in the car and drove to the park. It was a beautiful sunny summer day. I sent Jamie off to the playground while I sat on one of the benches and watched. He seemed to be enjoying himself, and I was happy to see that he was playing normally with the other kids. After an hour or so I called him back and we went over to the duck pond. Lunch was a kid's meal with a plastic figure of a pirate. Jamie looked at the toy and put it back in the bag. It was 3:30 when we got home. I had put the doll back on the upholstered chair in my room and hoped that Jamie would go back to his regular toys, but no. As soon as we got in the house, he went upstairs and I could see him turn right into my bedroom. Jamie needed back-to-school clothes, but I had put off our shopping trip, hoping to be able to return the doll when we went. Since it did not seem like that was going to happen anytime soon, the next day I took Jamie back to the mall. We went into the department store. It was set up so that you had to go through the girls' 4-6X section to get to the boys' side. As we passed through, Jamie stopped. "Come on, honey, these are girls' clothes." "The boys' clothes are over there," I told him, taking his hand and starting to walk. He resisted and I stopped. I turned and saw that he was looking at a pink taffeta party dress with a full skirt and white sash tied in a bow around the little girl mannequin's waist. The dress looked similar to the one his doll wore. "Oh, yes, honey, that dress does look like the one on your doll. It's very pretty. Now let's go, we have to buy you clothes for school." "Can I have that?" It took me a couple of seconds to realize what that was that he was talking about. "You mean the dress?" Uh-huh. "No, Jamie, absolutely not. Boys don't wear dresses. They're for girls when they want to look pretty." "Please, Mommy," he asked nicely. I knelt down, so that I was at his level when I spoke to him. "Jamie, you can't have a dress. Only girls wear dresses." "Why?" The same question as he asked about the doll. "Because girls wear different clothes than boys, that's why," I explained patiently. "Girls wear pants and shirts like me. Girls wear pants and shirts in different colors and designs than boys." Looking at the dress, I pointed out, "See, it's pink. That's a girl's color and the dress has lace around the neck, sleeves and hem. Lace is especially for girls too." Jamie gave me a puzzled look. "You wear the same clothes as me." I had on a pair of jeans and a white, jewel neckline short-sleeved cotton top that looked similar to a t-shirt. This was not going as well as I would have liked. "Jamie, my clothes may look like yours, but they're designed differently for a woman. Not that women didn't or at least couldn't wear men's clothes. Growing up, Karen and I would borrow our dad's shirts for beach cover-ups, although we left them open and knotted the tails, and Mom bought us boys' boxers to sleep in. This wasn't the time for debating the double standard. Jamie wears a dress. That took me by surprise. No, he doesn't. Then I realized he was talking about Jamie, his doll. That would make it easier, since she was a girl. "You doll is a girl, Jamie. That's why she is wearing a dress." "No. No, what? Jamie's not a girl. She's like me." This was getting out of hand. How could I argue with a 6-year-old about his doll's gender? He was too young to understand the physical differences between men and women, and the doll wasn't anatomically correct anyway. I needed to put an end to his confusion once and for all. "Jamie, I am not going to argue with you. Boys wear boys' clothes and girls wear girls' clothes. This is the girls' department. We need to shop in the boys' department, because you are a boy. Now I don't want to hear any more about you wanting a dress." I stood up and took his hand. "Let's go, please." Jamie was carried along by my momentum as I started to walk and, after a few seconds of resistance while he got his balance, began to follow along. When we got to the boys' department, I made a show of picking out pants and shirts, asking him his opinion as to color and style. He was agreeable, but unenthusiastic. After buying 2 pairs of corduroys, a pair of chinos, 2 pairs of jeans, an assortment of shirts and a dark blue and dark green long-sleeve knit pullover, we were done. He had plenty of underwear and socks, but I wanted him to have another pair of sneakers. I also wanted to avoid going back through the girls' clothes. Unfortunately, children's shoes was a single department and there were a lot of girls' styles on display. I watched Jamie as his eyes went to a pair of black patent leather Mary Janes, similar to the one on his doll. I shook my head, regretting my decision to buy it for him, regardless of Karen's assurance. I kept hold of his hand and quickly went to the boys' sneakers. I had Jamie sit down on a stool while the sales clerk fitted him to a very expensive pair of Nikes. They were black, with a high-tech sole for kiddie athletes, which I hoped would make him feel more masculine. I added the shoebox to the 3 bags of clothes. On the way out, Jamie stopped and looked at me. "Mommy, please." "No." We left the mall and drove home. As I was driving, I debated taking the doll away from him, but my being an Indian giver wasn't the solution. It would just upset him. Was there another way to handle this? Karen had said that it wasn't the toy, but our prejudices that determined who could play with it. Could it be the same with clothes? Was I being too conventional? What was it about dresses that limited them to being worn by females? What if I bought him the dress, I wondered. It definitely would make him happy. Just like the doll, I could have him wear it around the house and keep it in my closet. Nobody would know. Just a special secret shared between the 2 of us. Besides, I rationalized, he has plenty of boys' clothes and once he starts school, once he gets involved with other boys, maybe I even get him on a team, he will forget all about the doll and the dress. Maybe I should run this by Karen. Then again, whether I should let Jamie wear a dress is well beyond general advice and she said she couldn't counsel me. That means our going to a stranger and having to spend months talking about my most intimate feelings. No, thank you. "Jamie," I called up to him, "come down here for a second, please." About a minute later he appeared. "I've been thinking, honey. Are you really serious about wanting that dress you saw at the mall? If I bought it for you," I added without giving him time to respond, "would you really wear it?" "Uh-huh," Jamie said, nodding his head and smiling. "Uh-huh," he repeated. "Jamie, if," and I emphasized if, "I did buy it for you, you would have to promise me, I emphasized, cross your heart, sweetie, that you would never ever, I emphasized never and ever tell anybody about it." "Jamie," I said very seriously, "people would not understand why a boy wore a dress and it would be a big, I emphasized both bigs, problem." "I will, mommy, I promise," he quickly agreed, making an X over his heart. "I need to think about it some more. I'll tell you what. Let me put one of my t-shirts on you. I have some pretty ones. They're long enough to feel like a dress. Why don't you see if you like it before we buy one for you? Okay?" Jamie shook his head enthusiastically. "Come with me." We went into my bedroom and I looked through my dresser. There was a light yellow ribbed cotton tank top that had gotten in with some of the towels and went through the hot wash cycle and into the dryer on high. It had shrunk up to child's size and would be just right for Jamie to try. I took it out and held it up against him. It was perfect. "Let's take off your clothes and try this on." When he was down to his underpants, I slipped the tank top over his head and adjusted the wide straps to sit on his shoulders. I tugged on the bottom to stretch it out, which brought it down to about his mid-thigh and made it fit tighter. I couldn't resist and used my brush to fluff up his hair into a more feminine style. I was tempted to part it in the middle and make bangs, but that would be going too far. Even so, he could have passed for a little girl. "Well, Jamie, do you like your dress?" To my surprise, he wasn't enthusiastic. "It's okay." "What's wrong with it?" "I don't know." "Come over here and look in the mirror." I brought him over to my full-length mirror on the back of the closet door. "Look at yourself." "Turn around," I directed. "Hold out the bottom of the skirt a little. Do you like it or not?" "I don't look like Jamie." "You mean your doll?" "Uh-huh." Jamie, mothers and daughters, I didn't know how else to put it, don't always wear the same clothes. Sometimes they have matching outfits, for special times, like a birthday, but otherwise they were different things. You didn't wear the same clothes your father wore, and you wouldn't wear the same clothes that I wear, if you were my daughter. I have no idea why I made that comparison. He thought about it for a minute, then turned back and admired himself in the mirror, holding out the hem of the dress again, the way I had showed him. He nodded his head and looked up at me, which I took to mean his asking whether we were done. "Go ahead, Jamie. You can play for a bit. Then I want to talk to you a little more, once you've had a chance to see how you feel about wearing a dress. Okay?" When Jamie came downstairs, he left the doll on my bed and it was still there after we finished putting him into his makeshift. I gave a little laugh at my pun, because that was what we had done, made him a shift dress. He went over, picked her up and, to my surprise, walked back to the mirror, cradling her in the crook of his arm, the way I had shown him, and modeling it for her, at least a boy's version of how a girl would preen in front of a mirror. He spent about 5 minutes turning this way and that, talking softly to the doll, holding her out to look at him, and then went back to sit on the bed with her. I decided to give him his privacy and left. On the way out I noticed that he had let his dress right up and his underpants were showing. He would obviously need some instruction on skirt management, I thought to myself, which also got me to questioning whether I was serious about buying him a real dress. There was a lot more to being a girl than the clothes. Was I prepared to go that far with him? Then again, why even bother, if nobody was going to see him? Did he want to be a girl or just to look like his doll? Well, he was satisfied for now. I had time to give it some more thought. Jamie wants his mother to buy him a doll for a birthday present. She does, and a journey of discovery begins for both of them. Jamie played with his doll for the rest of the afternoon. I wondered what was holding his interest for so long, since children usually had a short attention span. He had no experience with dolls and he lacked the accessories to create more elaborate make-believe. Finally, my curiosity got the better of me and I decided to see what he was doing. "Jamie, honey, can I play too?" I asked. He looked at me blankly. "I used to have fun playing with my doll, Cricket. I wish I knew what happened to her. She's probably in a box in your grandmother's attic." I pretended to give it some thought and then suggested, "It was even more fun when my sister, your Aunt Karen, played with me. It's been a really long time, so could I play dolls with you?" He shrugged his shoulders. "You don't want me to play with you?" He shrugged his shoulders again and held the doll tightly. "You don't have to share the doll, honey. Let's just pretend we're at the grocery store. I can get some cans of food and little boxes of cereal, and I think we have a cardboard box you could use for a shopping cart. We can use the kitchen table to check out. I'll give you some coins from my pocketbook and I can be the cashier. How does that sound?" Karen and I used to play store with our dolls. Sometimes we raided Mom's kitchen cabinets, sometimes we used our play food, and sometimes we pretended it was a department store using our dolls' wardrobes. For some reason, probably the same one that made her such a good psychologist, she always ended up as the customer. I made that concession to Jamie, but it didn't make any difference. Since the more subtle approach wasn't working, I decided to be direct. "Jamie," I asked as casually as I could, so as not to make him think I was concerned, "what do you do when you play with your doll?" "I don't know," he answered noncommittally. "Jamie, you must do something. Do you play a game with her?" He shook his head. "Do you talk to her?" "Uh-huh," he answered quietly. "What do you talk about?" "I don't know." "You talk to her, but you don't know what you say?" "Nothing." "Jamie, you can't talk about nothing," I insisted. "Do you talk about you? Do you talk about your friends? Do you talk about me?" I hesitated and then asked him, "Do you talk about your father? Please tell me." I could see tears forming in the corners of his eyes and heard a quiet sob. Obviously it was something very personal and he wasn't comfortable sharing it with me. Maybe I was right about the doll being an emotional outlet for him, a companion who he could trust not to give away his secrets. The reason I didn't want counseling was because I didn't want to explain my intimate feelings to a stranger, no matter how well-meaning. Why shouldn't I give Jamie the same respect for his feelings? I got down on my knees and took him in my arms, the doll in between us. "Jamie, honey, Mommy's sorry. Please don't cry. If you want to talk to me, you can, but you don't have to," I apologized. I just thought maybe it would be fun to have someone to play with, like when I was a little girl and played with my sister, but it's up to you." "Really, honey? I have lots of things to do. If you change your mind, you can come get me. Okay?" I let go of him and stood up. He climbed down and, as I left the room, he was back talking to the doll. I wondered if I bought him some different outfits for his doll, would he change how he played with her? Would he dress her, or did clothes not matter to him, the way it did to girls? He had the comb and brush, but he didn't style her hair either. Then again, girls are used to fooling around with their hair and boys aren't, so that wasn't surprising. I sighed. In one sense, it really didn't matter. So long as it made him happy, that was good enough, but was that all there was to it? That evening we went through the usual routine. Jamie had the doll with him when he came down for dinner, but remembered to leave her on the stairs before he came to the table. After dinner we went into the den to watch a video. We decided on Disney's Aladdin. He sat down on the sofa, while I put the tape into the VCR. When I came back, his dress, well I guess it had become that, was rumpled and he had his legs spread out. "Jamie, honey." I instinctively corrected him, "Girls don't sit like that. Or boys in dresses either," the thought came to me. "You need to tuck your dress under you and cross your legs at your knees or your ankles. Or you can sit Indian style and pull your dress down to cover your legs. It's not polite to let people see your panties." Oops, silly slip of the tongue. I mean your underpants. Try it. Jamie stood up and looked at me questioningly. He was still holding the doll. "First, sweetie, you need to put the doll down. You can pick her up in a minute." He put the doll on the sofa. "Okay, now take your hands and slide them underneath your bottom, then slide back on the cushions, like this." I wasn't wearing a skirt, but I demonstrated the motion for him to copy. "Good boy. Boy? See, your dress is nice and smooth. Now you need to keep your legs together. Try pulling them up and crossing them under you. Is that comfortable?" He was awkward, but at his age he was flexible enough to get in position. "Now, cover your legs with the dress." It is a bit short." "Okay, then, Tuck it down between your legs. Here, like this. I adjusted the dress so that it was about as concealing as possible. If Jamie was a girl, she would have to wear leggings or shorts under it for modesty. Since he wasn't going out dressed like that, I don't know why I even bothered with the lesson in feminine deportment. When I indicated my approval, Jamie picked the doll back up and I pressed the play button on the remote. The video started and, as he watched the TV, I wondered whether he saw himself as Aladdin, the brash boy who saves the kingdom, or as Jasmine, the pretty girl who inspires Aladdin to overcome his past. After the movie, we went upstairs to get Jamie ready for bed. I had him take off his dress and put on his regular pajamas. When it was time for the story, the doll was on the pillow between us. When I finished, I looked down at him and decided that there was no longer any reason to take the doll away for the night. It would also avoid any more of his nocturnal adventures to retrieve it. Jamie, I'm going to let you keep the doll with you. Do be careful with her. Sweet dreams. He looked up at me with a smile and snuggled down under the covers, with his left arm resting on the doll. I left, turned out the light and closed the door, leaving it ajar. I went to my bedroom and got undressed. As I was pulling on my old t-shirt, I thought back to when I would wear seductive nightgowns for Jim. Because he traveled so much, our time together was precious and I always wanted to look ultra sexy for him. I had one black lace number that never stayed on me very long. I wore panties under it to keep him at bay for an additional 30 seconds, I reminded myself nostalgically. It was still early. I debated calling Karen and filling her in, but I knew she would discourage me from buying Jamie the dress until we had gone through counseling, and I had already decided that I would not put either him or me through that. I picked up my book and read until I was tired, set the alarm for 7:30 and turned off the light. The alarm went off and I got up. I peeked into Jamie's room to check on him. He was still asleep. He had rolled over, so that the doll was lying on the pillow next to his head. I went back to my room and used the time to wash up, do my hair, put on some makeup, since we would be going out later, and get dressed. I looked at my nails, which needed attention, and made a mental note to get a manicure. I didn't go to the beauty salon anymore, because I had no one to watch Jamie. If he was into dolls and dresses, maybe I could take him with me and he wouldn't be bored? No, what are you thinking, Virginia? I chided myself. Dolls and dresses or not, he is still a boy and you want him to get over it, not into it. Should I buy him the dress, then? I had already told him I would and it wouldn't be right to disappoint him. Besides, wearing my old tank top for a day is one thing, but he can't be serious about dressing like a girl. Why would he want to do that? Girls' clothes, at last the feminine ones, are complicated, with what they have to wear under them, and a nuisance. He's already seen how much trouble it is to sit in a dress. Wait until he has to manage a party dress with a stiff crinoline. He'll see how much better it is to be a boy. On that note, I went down to get breakfast ready. On the way, I thought about the practical details of buying a boy a dress. What size did I wear when I was 6? I had no idea, since my mother bought my clothes for me or I got Karen's hand-me-downs, which I would grow into, as Mom assured me. I suppose I could call her and ask. That would be an interesting conversation. Why get her involved at all? Mom loves to gossip, so she would tell Karen, who would put 2 and 2 together and I would get an inquisitive call. Anyway, I had no idea if Jamie and I were the same size at that age. He is small, but how big was I? Mrs. Dress sizes also varied between brands. Sometimes I wear a 6 and sometimes an 8. Girls' dresses probably were the same. Could I take him into the dressing room to try it on? Would they let a boy try on dresses? Probably not, if they knew. Do they have to know? He looked like a girl when I dressed him in my tank top. It was too skimpy even for a little girl to wear in public. She'd flash her panties, no matter how careful she was, but, with a little styling of his hair and some unisex clothes, like shorts, a plain top and sneakers, he could probably pass for my daughter. I remembered that a couple of months ago I had mixed some of his white underwear in with the dark wash and they had come out tinted pink. I had been meaning to get some Clorox to try bleaching them, but hadn't gotten around to it. They should still be in the laundry room. I went and rummaged around the odd clothing pile, socks that didn't match, but which I optimistically believed would have their mate turn up, and ripped t-shirts that would be good for cleaning rags, that kind of stuff, and found a pair of the underpants and a crewneck short-sleeved t-shirt. They would do nicely to enhance the illusion of Jamie being a girl while he tried on dresses. I brought them to the kitchen and put them aside while I finished making breakfast. About 20 minutes later I heard him coming downstairs. As before, he had obediently left the doll on the stairs. I gave him his breakfast and sat down across the table from him. "Did you sleep well, sweetie?" I inquired, making small talk. "Uh-huh," he answered between spoonfuls of Fruit Loops. "Jamie," I continued nonchalantly, "do you still want me to buy you the dress?" I was hoping he would say no after my coaching with the tank top, but he nodded his head. "Okay, then. If you really want me to, I will. But honey, you have to remember, it's our secret. You can't let anyone know that I bought you a dress. Well, boys don't wear dresses. I mean, they can, you can, but well, most people, would think there was, that you were, that it was wrong." "No, that wasn't what I wanted to say. Not wrong, Jamie, but, different." "Different," I repeated. "Sometimes people are not very tolerant, patient, nice, when things aren't what they expect. How do you explain prejudice to a 6-year-old? Do you understand, Jamie?" He gave me a puzzled look. "Never mind, honey. Don't worry about. Mommy will take care of it. Let's go get you dressed, so we can go to the mall." I picked up the underwear and brought it with us. We went into his room and I had him take off his pajamas. I showed him the underpants and undershirt. "Jamie, remember when you were looking at the dress in the store, I told you that pink was for girls?" "Uh-huh." "Jamie, you really need to use words and not sounds," I corrected him. "Yes or no and the person's name, if you know it, or mommy, if you're talking to me. Please and thank you too. That is the way polite children speak to adults or their mother. Will you do that, please, Jamie?" I illustrated. "Now, I'll ask you again. Do you remember when you were looking at the dress and I told you that pink was for girls?" "Yes, Mommy," he complied. "Thank you for listening, sweetie. When we go shopping today, you have to pretend to be a girl, so that we can shop in the girls' department. I need to have you try on the dress to make sure it fits, and they won't let a boy do that." "See," I said, holding up his underpants. "They're the same as a girl would wear." "Well, except for having a fly, but he wouldn't know that girls pulled down their panties when they tinkled. And your t-shirt is pink too." I handed them to him. Except for the color, they were identical to what he was used to, so there was no difficulty in him putting them on. I went to his bureau and found a pair of red cotton shorts with white piping. Plain white socks and his old sneakers, which weren't as macho as the fancy Nikes I just bought, completed his unisex outfit. I got my round styling brush and fluffed up his hair, pulling it forward to frame his face. I had a silly thought of using some perfume, but I didn't think a 6-year-old should smell like passion. Jim loved that scent on me, but bubble gum was probably what little girls wore. Or maybe a little nail polish to give him a more feminine appearance. Except that all I had was red, much too grown up. Besides, why get into that with him? The less feminine he felt, the more likely he would give up and go back to being a boy. Once Jamie was ready, I got my pocketbook and we headed for the mall. I could see that he was excited. We parked and walked to the department store. When we reached the girls' department, I took Jamie's hand. The pink party dress was on a mannequin set on top of a circular rack of the same dresses, separated by size with dividers, 4, 5, 6 and 6X. Jamie wore a boy's size 6. Boys' sizes corresponded to their age, if they were average in height and weight. I assumed girls' sizes were about the same, although there was only one way to find out. I took a size 6 and went up to the sales counter. "Hello," the salesgirl greeted us. She was a young woman, maybe in her mid-20s, very pretty, with dark hair pulled back off her face with a gold clip on either side, dressed in a faded blue denim skirt with a summery pale yellow short-sleeved blouse, open at the neck to show off a gold chain. "I'm Claire." Looking at the dress I was holding and then down at Jamie, she smiled and asked, "Would you like to try it on and see how pretty you look in it?" Accepting him as a little girl, to my relief. "Here," she offered, handing me a plastic card with a large number 1 on it. "The dressing rooms are over there," she directed us. I took the dress and held Jamie's hand as we walked to the dressing room. If Claire did suspect anything, she was considerate enough not to embarrass us. I wondered if she ever had a boy try on a dress, as a boy. Well, no reason to start now. We got to the doorway that led to the dressing rooms, which had a louvered swinging door for privacy, but underneath which you could see the legs of the people inside. At least you could have, if there was anyone else using them, but we were alone. I took Jamie into the last one on the right. Inside I hung the dress on a hook. There was a large floor-length mirror on the left partition, as you went in. "Jamie, let's take off your shorts and sneakers. You can keep your underpants and t-shirt on." He reached down and undid the Velcro tabs on his sneakers and stepped out of them. I helped him pull down and step out of his shorts. "Okay, the moment of truth." Truth or dare, I joked nervously to myself. "Okay, Ginny, I dare you to put a dress on your son." I pulled down the back zipper and held it over Jamie's head. "Arms up, honey." He raised his arms. The skirt was flared out by a built-in nylon neck crinoline, so it slipped over his head easily. I settled the shoulders on him, pulling up the zipper to secure it in place. There it was, then. He was wearing the dress. I fussed with the bodice, tied the sash in a big bow and back and fluffed out the skirt, the way I would have done if Jamie really was a girl. I was standing behind him and could see him looking at himself in the mirror. "Jamie," I asked, trying to avoid using any words that would give away that he was a boy, just in case anyone might overhear me, "do you like the dress? Do you like the way it feels on you?" You look pretty," I complimented him. I made the commitment and it seemed wrong to spoil the moment by being negative. "If you don't like it, we can find something else," I offered. To my surprise, he put his hands on the skirt and swung back and forth, similar to how he modeled the tank top for his doll. A girl would have spun around and looked over her shoulder to see how she looked from the back, but Jamie was content with seeing how he looked in the dress from the front. "Jamie?" I repeated. "I like it, Mommy," he finally responded. "Can I have it?" "Please," he added. "Yes, I said I would buy it for you." I bent down and said softly, "But remember, Jamie, it is our special secret. You can't tell anybody that Mommy bought you a dress, and you can't tell anybody about wearing the dress either. Okay?" "Okay, Mommy." "Honey, you need to take off the dress and put your shorts and sneakers back on." I untied the sash. "Now, lift up your arms and hold still, while I undo the hook and the zipper. There. If he were doing it himself and could manage the back zipper, no easy feat, even for a girl who was used to wearing dresses, he would let it drop and step out of it. But, since I was taller, it was easier to lift the dress over his head. I put it back on the hanger while Jamie got himself dressed. I took the dress and went back to the sales counter, where Claire was waiting. I handed her the dress, which she laid on the counter. "Well, you were right, it does look pretty on her. We'll take it. I'm glad you like it. I wish you had come out and let me see. Pink is definitely her color with the red hair and green eyes. She's going to be a heartbreaker when she grows up." "Is she in school?" "She starts kindergarten in the fall." "Oh, I'm sure the little boys will be in puppy love," she said with a smile. "You know, we have some really adorable outfits for her to wear to school. Would you like me to show you some?" "No thank you, Claire, we're all set for now." I opened my pocketbook and took my credit card out of my wallet. "Oh, Mrs. McCarthy," she read my name off of the card. I picked out a few things. "I wasn't sure if you would want some nice undies to go with the dress." Claire was obviously a very good salesperson. She held up a pair of white nylon panties with pink lace trim around the waistband and leg openings and 2 pink hearts appliqued on the front and a matching camisole. "These are so pretty," she enthused. "I just love them and they'll make her feel ever so feminine." "These too." Claire held up a package of white nylon tights. I glanced at Jamie, but he didn't seem interested. I wondered if the doll wore panties. Usually they had something on under their dress. Had he looked? Did he care? Should I get him the real girl's underwear instead of what he was wearing? Nobody was going to know, so why bother? Why not? Maybe once he wore the dress, he would pay more attention to his doll's outfit and discover that she had girl's underwear. I could always return it, if he didn't want it, the dress too, I hoped. I tried to remember what the doll had on her legs. I doubted she had tights. That would be too difficult for a little girl to manage taking off and putting back on. She probably had socks. "We'll take the panties. They are very pretty. Not the tights." "Jamie has enough of those," I lied. "Perhaps a pair of anklets though? Do you have some dressy ones?" "Yes, Mrs. McCarthy, I can find some for you, but they only come in cotton, with an eyelet ruffle." "Will they do?" "Oh, we also have some white nylon knee socks," she grinned, "but a lot of the moms think they make their girls look too much like Alice in Wonderland, if you know what I mean. Like in the movie." "Do you want the socks?" "Yes, please." Claire went over to a rack, conveniently next to the sales counter, and took down a package. Showing them to me for my approval, she asked, "Are these okay?" "Yes, that will be fine, thank you." Looking at what Claire had picked out, it struck me that she hadn't asked about sizes, which was really good, because I had no more idea about girls' underwear sizes than I did about dress sizes. I assumed that she must have enough experience to either figure it out from looking at Jamie or match them to the dress size. At least that was one problem I didn't have to deal with. I heard her mention my name. "Mrs. McCarthy?" "Yes." "That will be $101.20 with tax, please. Shall I put it on your credit card?" I hadn't been paying attention and realized that I was so absorbed with Jamie trying on the dress that I hadn't bothered to look at its price tag or the price tags on the other items either. "Oh, may I see what you've rung up?" It was a lot more expensive than I had thought, but then, hopefully, I would be returning most of it. Not the socks, once I opened the package, and I didn't know about their panty policy. Some stores, at least women's stores, wouldn't take women's undergarments back for sanitary reasons. Even more so, I thought to myself, if a boy had them on. I could just picture some little girl complaining, "Aw, mommy, a boy wore these panties. They have cooties." Claire showed me the register tape. The dress was $68.88 and the panties were $9. I didn't pay that much for my own underwear, well, unless I was trying to vamp Jim. Otherwise 3 to a package cotton panties at the discount store. The cami was $12.00. The socks were a bargain at $6.50. I gave her my permission to charge everything and signed the slip. "Would you like the dress on the hanger or in a bag?" I didn't want to be seen carrying the dress through the mall, in case I ran into someone we knew. It just wasn't worth making up an explanation. "In a bag please, but may I have the hanger too?" All of Jamie's hangers were the wire kind that you got from the cleaners. The dress hanger was plastic with a foam covering and had a swivel hook. Yes, of course. Claire folded the dress with tissue paper to keep it from getting wrinkled, slid it into a bag, did the same for the panties and cami, put in the hanger and handed it to me with the sales receipt and my credit card. "Thank you very much for shopping with us, Mrs. McCarthy. Please do come back. Ask for me, Claire. I work Tuesday through Saturday, 9 to 4. It's been a pleasure. Bye, Jamie," she waved. "Say goodbye to the nice lady, Jamie." "Goodbye," he repeated as we left the department. That went well, I congratulated myself. Either Claire was fooled or she put on an Academy Award-winning performance to make the sale. Then a thought crossed my mind. Did she try to sell underwear to every mother, or was it because she knew that Jamie was a boy and wouldn't have it? Then again, if I was picking out a party dress for my son, why wouldn't she think that he must already have a wardrobe of girls' clothes at home? Not that what Claire thought mattered. I just wondered how convincing Jamie was at being a girl. We started through the store towards the mall exit and I felt Jamie stop. "What's wrong, honey? Do you have to use the bathroom?" "No, Mommy." "What about the shoes?" "What shoes, Jamie?" "Like Jamie wears," he explained. Then it dawned on me, he had seen the Mary Janes in the children's shoe department when we bought him the Nikes. "You want girls' shoes too?" I said softly, looking around to make sure we were alone. "Yes, like Jamie has. I suppose in for a penny, in for a pound, as my dad would say." As we started towards the shoe department, it struck me that the same salesperson who sold Jamie the Nikes as a boy might wait on us, which would be awkward. He sees lots of kids' feet, maybe he won't remember us. Then again, we've been so careful, why take a chance on the deception being discovered? I stopped. "Jamie, there's another children's shoe store in the mall," which there was. Even better, considering how much I had already spent and how little he was going to wear the dress, it was one of those self-service discount stores. That would also avoid the problem that I didn't know what size Jamie wore in girls' shoes. He wore a size 1 boy's shoe, but did girls' shoes use the same size system? As I recalled, women's shoes were a size or 2 larger than the corresponding men's shoes, which always struck me as backwards. Wouldn't our vanity about having small feet mean that a man's size 9 should be a woman's size 7 or 8 and not a 10 or 11? So would Jamie wear a girl's 1, 2 or 3? We left the department store and walked through the mall towards the shoe store, which was near the other end. On the way we passed the ice cream stand. Since we weren't in any rush, I asked him if he would like to stop, which he did, of course. What normal kid would say no to ice cream? As usual, he wanted a vanilla cone with rainbow sprinkles, and I ordered the same small dish of maple walnut. When they came, I decided to let Jamie eat the cone like a boy, so I handed it to him to lick and took my cup. He hesitated and then asked me if he could have it in a cup too. Well, I tried. I asked for a cup and got a spoon and some napkins. When we finished, I picked up the bag and we continued on our way to the shoe store. The store was set up with long aisles with tiered shelves of shoes in their boxes. Women's were up front on 3 aisles on the left and men's were on either side of 1 aisle to the right. At the back were 4 aisles of kids' shoes and sneakers in open boxes. We went by the displays until we came to the girls' dress shoes. There was a good selection of Mary Jane styles. As I recalled, what Jamie wanted was the black patent leathers. I searched the shelves until I found a pair and took down 2 boxes, a size 1 and size 2. I had him sit on one of the stools scattered throughout the aisles, undid the Velcro fasteners on his sneakers and slipped on the smaller pair. They were narrower, which wasn't surprising, since girls' feet ran narrow than boys, and were tight, but then his casual socks were thicker than the anklets. I took off the 1s and tried on the 2s, which fit much better. "Jamie, honey, try walking in those. How do they feel?" He took a few steps up the aisle and back. "Well, they're okay, Mommy. Can we buy them?" "Jamie, are you sure you want shoes to go with the dress? You can just wear your socks around the house. You could take the doll's shoes and socks off too and both go barefoot," I suggested. "No," he said and shook his head. "Please?" "Very well, sweetie." I took off the shoes and had him put his sneakers back on, while I packed the Mary Janes back in their box, covered it with the lid that was underneath it, took the bag and carried the box to the sales counter. The shoes were a bargain at $14.99. The salesgirl put the box in a plastic bag and I handed it to Jamie to carry, since nobody could tell what was in it. We headed back towards the other end of the mall where I had parked. As we were just about at the exit, I saw an accessory store with a display of headbands in the window. Well, in for a penny, in for a pound. I reminded myself to kill my father for putting that stupid expression in my head. Just kidding, I loved him. "Jamie, would you like a headband like your dolls?" The idea hadn't occurred to him, but, having been asked, he nodded enthusiastically. We went into the shop. The front had racks and cases of costume jewelry, rings, bracelets, necklaces, and every style of earring imaginable. Luckily, I thought to myself, the doll didn't come with pierced ears. The hair items were in the back, a whole wall, from floor to ceiling, of ribbons, barrettes, clips, pony elastics, scrunchies, and adornments. At one side there was a stand with headbands of every material and assorted sizes for infants to adults. I looked through them, while Jamie waited patiently and found a small pink plastic one with little flowers that looked similar to what I remembered came with his doll. I took it down and showed it to him. He smiled. Just to check it was the right size, I slipped it over his head and fitted it behind his ears, pulling back his hair. It stayed in place. I took it off and we took it to the front of the store. At $1.49 it was another bargain. I put the little bag in with the shoes and we went to the car. It was mid-afternoon when we arrived home. I parked the car in the garage and we went into the kitchen. I put the bags down on the table. Jamie looked at me expectantly, obviously anxious to try on his dress. "Jamie, honey, please go upstairs and get undressed. Keep on our underwear. Come into my room when you're ready and you can try on your outfit." He hurried out. I brought the bags upstairs, emptied them and arranged the dress, panties, camisole, socks and shoes on my bed. As I was finishing, Jamie came in. Before we left, I had put the doll back in my room. He went over and picked her up. "Are you sure, honey, that you want to wear a dress? You know, they're a nuisance. You saw how much trouble it was to sit in one yesterday, and a party dress is even more difficult." "Yes, please?" "Yes, you don't want to put on the dress, or yes, you do want to wear it?" I asked to be doubly sure. "Wear it," he confirmed. Okay. Do you want to keep on the underwear you have on? Does Jamie have pink underpants? You mean Jamie, the doll? Yes. I don't know, honey, I'd have to look. If you give her to me, I'll check. He handed me the doll. I turned her upside down, exposing what she had under her dress. They were white with gathers at the leg openings and waist that made ruffles. She had nothing on top. I showed Jamie. I want what she's wearing, Mommy. The white underpants? Uh-huh. Excuse me. Yes, Mommy. Please. What about the top, sweetie? Your doll doesn't have one, but you might be more comfortable with something underneath. He shrugged, which I took to mean it was up to me. Take off your underwear, I directed him. He pulled the t-shirt over his head and pulled down his underpants, stepping out of them. I held out the panties and he stepped into them, pulling the smooth material up his legs and settling them around his hips, since they were hip huggers. Actually, they looked cute on him, with only a tiny bulge at the crotch to give away his secret. Arms up. I slipped the camisole over his head. It had wide straps with the same pink lace etching as the panties and the same heart appliques. Do you like the way your new undies feel, honey? You can take them off and put on your other underwear if you don't like them. He shook his head. Words, Jamie, please. No, Mommy, I like them. They feel nice. Oh well, I tried to discourage him. I slipped the socks on next and turned down the cuffs. Finally, it was time for the dress. Arms up again, please. I unzipped the back and slipped the skirt over Jamie's head, then let it settle on his shoulders and did up the zipper. I adjusted the top, tied the sash and reached under the skirt to flare out the crinoline. Last came the shoes, which I had him slip on and buckled. Now the outfit was complete. Oops, no, I forgot the headband. I used my brush to give his hair some fullness and slipped it on. Looking at him, I couldn't get over it. He was a real doll. Except for the fact that he was awkward in the way he moved, girls become accustomed to wearing dresses from the time they're old enough to walk. He could easily be my daughter. Not that I wanted a daughter. I was happy with a son. He was happy dressed like his doll. Jamie, are you really sure you want to do this? You know, you don't have to wear the dress to play with your doll. Then he said something that worried me. No, I'm Jamie's mommy. I thought back to the day in the toy store when I was trying to talk him out of the doll. I told him that girls play with dolls to practice for when they grow up to be mommies. He asked me if he would be a mommy if he played with the doll, and I told him no, he would grow up to be a daddy. Then at the department store, I explained to him that only girls wore dresses. Did he put the two together and believe that wearing a dress would turn him into a girl and make him a mommy? Standing in front of me, wearing a dress and holding a doll, now did not seem like the right time for me to disappoint him with the reality that he was a boy and could never be a mother. Look in the mirror, I directed him. Are you really sure you want to wear the dress? I asked, offering him a final chance to change his mind. He swung to and fro, with the skirt swirling out, holding the doll so to face the mirror, so that she could see he was dressed like her, and shook his head. Okay, I agreed reluctantly, you can play. Please stay in my room, I cautioned him. I don't want you to get your dress dirty. It can't be washed. It also meant that he would be restricted to playing just with his doll, which might be less fun, unless he figured out that he could bring toys from his room into my room. Then again, he didn't seem to be into the elaborate make-believe girls played. And please sit carefully so you don't get it wrinkled. So it won't look like it was worn, in case you get tired of wearing it, and I can return it, I encouraged myself. I'm going downstairs for a little while. I'll call you when dinner's ready. Oh, and Jamie, honey, you'll have to change back into your own clothes to eat. You wouldn't want to spill anything on your dress and spoil it. Have fun, sweetie. I cleaned up the tissue paper from the bed, putting it into the bag to save, in case I took the dress back, covered the shoebox, put it and the shoe store bag into the large department store bag and took them downstairs to put in the hall closet with the doll's box. Closing the closet door, I picked up the mail from the floor and went into the kitchen. I made myself a cup of tea and went through the mail, a few circulars and a couple of bills. Since I had time before starting dinner, spaghetti and jarred meat sauce didn't take very long to prepare. I took my checkbook out of the drawer and paid the bills. After I finished my tea and bookkeeping, I was curious to see what Jamie was doing, so I went upstairs quietly and stood outside the doorway. He was sitting on my bed. I noticed that he had pulled down his dress, so it covered his knees, like I had showed him, and he was again talking to the doll. I strained to listen to his conversation without revealing that I was eavesdropping. Mommy, Jamie, pretty, good, girl, playin' sister, were the words I overheard. Sister? Where did that word come from? Jamie didn't have a sister. We never talked about a sister. Maybe he knew that Karen's daughters were sisters, but if he was pretending to be the mother, then the doll would be his daughter, not his sister. Did the doll have an imaginary sibling, or was he talking about someone else in that role? Me? Technically, I would be the doll's grandmother, although he was too young to understand family relationships. Karen was his aunt and she was my sister. Maybe he was confusing the two. Maybe I should mind my own business and then I wouldn't be puzzled, but I was his mother and had a right to know what he was doing. I turned and went back downstairs to start dinner. At 4:30 I decided Jamie had been in his dress long enough. I went back upstairs and into my bedroom. He had moved from the bed and was sitting on the floor in front of the mirror. The doll was sitting in his lap and he was still having a conversation with her. Jamie, honey, it's time to change for dinner. Let's get you undressed and put on your regular clothes. Actually, you might as well get into your pajamas. Put the doll down and come over here, please. I helped him out of the dress and put it on the hanger it came on. As he watched, I made some space in my closet and put it away, closing the door. It will be there tomorrow, I assured him. I want to keep your panties, underpants, and top in my room too, so they will stay nice. I helped him off with the cami and waited for him to slip off the underpants and step out of them. I folded them neatly on top of my bureau. They'll be here for you tomorrow, too. Now, scoot in your room and put on your regular underpants and PJs. I waved my hand to dismiss him and he went out slowly, looking back over his shoulder. Jamie, enough with the doll and the dress for today, honey, I chided him. Really, they're not going anywhere, I promise. Not that I didn't hope they would eventually go somewhere, back to the store. Come downstairs when you've changed. I followed Jamie out of my room and went downstairs to finish getting dinner ready. He came down dressed for bed, as usual. I was hoping he had enough of the doll for one day, but I saw it sitting on the stairs. During dinner I casually asked him how he liked the dress. Okay, he told me, uninformatively. Did he want to keep it? Yes. We ate quietly. There isn't a lot of conversation that you can have with a 6-year-old boy, particularly if he spends most of the day dressed in girls' clothes and playing with a doll. When he was done, he looked at me and I told him he was excused. Jamie got up and started to leave, then hesitated and turned to me. Mommy, can I put on the dress please? I was relieved to hear him say the dress, rather than my dress, which made it sound to me like he considered it more of a costume and not his wardrobe. Then again, children are not very precise in their language, so perhaps it was just wishful thinking. Either way, I had enough of dressing him up. No, Jamie, you cannot wear the dress again today. You're a boy, not a girl, and boys don't wear dresses. I should never have bought it for you, I said angrily. Now go watch TV or play with your toys. I watched Jamie's face as it turned from an expectant smile to sadness. His lip began to quiver, then shudders, sobs and tears began to stream down his face. Virginia, what in the world have you just done? That is twice in the same day you have made your son cry. You are an awful mother, I admonished myself. Children need consistency more than anything. You told him no, then yes, now no. If it is no, then it has to be final. Take the dress away, return it, and the shoes, get rid of the underwear, and be done with it. It won't be the last time that you change your mind or that you tell him he can't have something he wants. That's what being a parent is about, keeping your child from doing things that are harmful. Was it harmful? If it was, could the harm be undone by taking it away? Whatever you decide, I warned myself, you will have to live with it. So will Jamie. I made up my mind. I went over and hugged him tightly as big sobs continued to rack his body. Jamie, I'm sorry. I'm really, really sorry. Sometimes Jamie, grown-ups, mommies, say things they don't mean. We don't think before we speak, and when we do that we hurt people's feelings. We don't mean to, we just make mistakes. I made a mistake when I got angry with you, sweetie. I bought you the dress and it's yours to wear whenever you want to when we're alone in the house. Okay, honey? Please forgive me. I did a mean thing and I apologize. I'll tell you what. Let's dry your tears and then I'll help you put on your dress and you can play until bedtime. You can even play in your own room with your doll, if you want to, or watch TV. You know what, Jamie? We can keep the dress and doll in your room too. I offered to show my unconditional approval, so you can have them whenever you want. Okay, honey? Please forgive, Mommy. I love you, Jamie. I love you so very, very much. I could feel Jamie relax, and when the sobs subsided, I released him. Let me clean you up a little, please, I requested, going over to the sink and wetting a paper towel. We don't want tears on your dress, conceding that it was his dress. I cleaned his face, wiping off the tears, and dried it with the dish towel. Okay, let's go get you dressed, I offered, taking his hand. We walked to the stairs and I released his hand so he could pick up his doll. We continued upstairs to my room, where I took the dress out of my closet, retrieved the shoes and underwear and went through the routine of dressing him up. There, I said, standing back and pretending to admire him, like I would if he really was my daughter. You look pretty, Jamie, just like your doll. Why don't you go and play for an hour or so, while I clean up the kitchen? Then we can watch a video. Okay? Uh-huh. Jamie, words please, I reminded him, the way polite boys talk. Girls too, I added, so I wouldn't hurt his feelings again, if that was how he thought about himself when he was wearing the dress. Yes, Mommy. I went back to the kitchen, cleared the dishes, glasses, and silverware off of the table, rinsed them and put them in the dishwasher. Once the table and counter were wiped down, I put detergent in the dishwasher's cup and started it. As it began to fill, I finally had time to think about what I had just done. Jamie was happy, I told myself, and that's what's important, wasn't it? My debate was interrupted by the telephone. Hi, Ginny. It was Karen. Hi, Karen, how are you? Fine, thanks, sis, but I was hoping to hear from you. How'd it go with Jamie? I paused. Ginny? I'm here, Karen. You were wrong. Okay, I was wrong, she conceded. But, if I'm going to take the blame, would you at least tell me what happened, so I won't make the same mistake again? I paused. Ginny? Jamie's gay, I revealed. Ginny, what in the world are you talking about? Jamie's not gay, she insisted. What would you call a boy who wears a dress? I challenged her. Well, if it was Halloween, I'd say he was a boy in a costume. If it was Elizabethan England and he was playing Juliet, I would say he was a Shakespearean actor. Since it is neither of those, I would have to say that he was just what you described, a boy in a dress, without any additional information. Karen, this is not the time to be witty, I chastised her. This is serious. I am being serious, Ginny. Jamie's not gay, unless you caught him snogging the little boy next door. Snogging? Is that a psychological term? Sorry, no. It's an English term from a popular children's book. It means kissing. What you and I would call making out in our day. Karen, that is disgusting. Jamie is only 6 years old. He is too young for such behavior. How could you even suggest it? I suggested it, she answered calmly, because you just refuted your own contention. Being gay refers to a male's preference for a same-sex partner. 6-year-old boys have not become sexually active, so it is impossible for them to have a preference in partners. They can't be gay by definition. Occasionally, Ginny, Karen lectured me, we see a boy acting inappropriately towards other boys, which is a sign that he is a victim of sexual abuse, not gay. I only tell you this to emphasize that sexual orientation does not manifest itself in prepubescent children. I'm sorry, Karen, for being so upset with you. I appreciate your assurance, but it still doesn't explain why Jamie wants to dress up in girls' clothes and play with a doll. Hold on, Ginny. I know where Jamie got the doll. We went over that the last time we spoke. But where did he get girls' clothes? He doesn't have a sister, so hasn't been raiding her closet, and he certainly wouldn't fit into your clothes. By deductive reasoning, that means that you bought them for him. Why? I don't know, Karen. I honestly don't know. One thing led to another, and I guess I listened to my heart instead of my head. I made a mistake and now I don't know what to do about it. Ginny, hearts are not always wrong. Sometimes the smart thing is not the right thing. I can't tell without knowing what has been going on. Do you want to explain? You don't have to, sis, but I'm here if you need me. Of course I want your advice, Karen, but I thought you couldn't counsel a family member? It's not a law, Ginny. It's an ethical and practical restriction to protect the patient's privacy and the therapist's integrity. Besides, I'm not offering counseling, I'm offering guidance. There's a big difference between active and passive involvement. Oh, well, then, what do you need to know? Everything, Ginny. The more details, the better. Just start at the beginning and tell me what happened. Don't leave anything out, even if you think it isn't important, because sometimes it is just that type of seemingly trivial information that helps to provide perspective. Go ahead. There isn't that much to tell, really. The day after I spoke to you, I took Jamie back to the mall to buy him some new clothes for back to school. Actually, Karen, you put the idea in my head. The way the store is laid out, to get to the boys' clothes you have to go through the girls' department, and on the way Jamie stopped and admired a party dress. It looked like the one the doll was wearing and he asked me to buy it for him. Why didn't you tell him no, Ginny? Karen asked. I did, I answered her. Then how did he end up with it? I thought about it and decided that I should let him try it and get it out of his system. You and I wear dresses. Mostly they're a nuisance. I expected him to realize that and go back to wearing his comfortable boy's clothes. Ginny, you're rationalizing. As grown women, dresses no longer hold the fascination for us they did when we were younger, but we both love to wear our party dresses, because they made us feel special. Even more so with Jamie, because the dress makes him look like his doll, to which he appears to be very attached. I know, Karen, I admitted. I just couldn't say no to him, he's been through so much. If he was going through the sporting goods department and asked you to buy him a hunting knife, would you do it? No, of course not. Knives are dangerous. So are boys in dresses apparently, or you wouldn't be worried. I sighed. Karen, I know I made a mistake, but it all started with the doll and you said it was harmless. Ginny, the doll is harmless. You were hoping Jamie would give it up, which he might have done if you hadn't reinforced his behavior by buying him a matching dress. She paused. Ginny? Did you buy him just the dress? No, I admitted, he saw matching Mary Jane's when I took him into the shoe department to buy new sneakers. Boys' sneakers, I added defensively. And you bought girls' shoes for him too? Yes. Anything else? When I was buying the dress, the salesgirl picked out some underwear to go with it. Honestly, I didn't ask her to, Karen. She was just doing her job. I wasn't sure if he would wear it. He seemed interested in just the dress, but I bought it just in case. Just in case of what? Just in case he checked and the doll had on girls' underwear? As a matter of academic interest, did it? Yes. So he wears panties with his dress. Cotton or nylon? Nylon, and a matching camisole and ankle socks too, since you said details were important. Oh, and a headband. A headband? You bought that for him too? The doll has one, I explained. So Jamie and the doll are twins, right down to their panties and accessories? Yes. How often does he wear the dress? As often as I let him. How often do you let him? Whenever he asks. How often does he ask? Whenever he is home, except when he goes to bed, obviously. Then he wears his usual underpants and pajamas. I see. Have you taken him out in the dress? No, I made it clear that he could only wear it in the house and that he could not tell anyone about it or they would tease him. Secrecy and guilt are not solutions, Ginny. I know. It was the best I could do. The best you could do as a parent was to say no, if you thought it was harmful or inappropriate. That's what parenting is about, setting limits, even if it makes you unpopular with your child. You're the one who said it was okay to buy him the doll. If it wasn't for the doll, none of this would have happened. So, we're back to blaming me. Okay, Ginny, it's all my fault, if you want me to take responsibility. But remember, I didn't tell you to buy the doll for Jamie. She emphasized buy. You had already bought it for him when you called me. All I did was reassure you that his playing with a doll would not be harmful by itself. It isn't. Dressing Jamie as a girl was your decision. I'm sorry, sis, I apologized. I know you're right. One thing has nothing to do with the other. Have I really messed Jamie up, Karen? What should I do? If you tell me to take away the doll and the dress, I will. Ginny, don't do anything for the time being. Taking something important away without an explanation will only make the situation worse. Let me check around and find you a therapist. You need someone who can work with both of you to transition Jamie into or out of whatever is making him want to play with a doll and dress like it. Into, Karen? This is not my area of practice, Ginny. I've read some literature about being transgendered, but I don't have either the clinical training or experience to make a diagnosis, even if I wanted to, which I don't. Karen, what does that mean? Ginny, the human mind, particularly a child's developing mind, is incredibly complex. We exhibit behaviors which have multiple causes, often illogical and sometimes incapable of rational explanation, which we call mental illness. I am not suggesting or implying that Jamie has a psychiatric problem. To the contrary, there are many reasons he might be behaving the way he is. Children don't understand death. Even adults have a hard time with it, but to a child all they know is that someone who they loved has gone away. That makes them very attached to the remaining parent. They will do anything to please them, so that they won't go away too. Like I said, children do not always think logically, and Jamie may have gotten the impression that by being like you will like him better. It could be as simple as that misperception. Or, according to what I have read, even at an early age, children can be confused about their gender. They see themselves as the opposite sex and want to behave accordingly. That's what it means to be transgendered, literally from one sex to the other. What is causing Jamie's behavior is something a qualified therapist needs to diagnose and counsel you accordingly. Oh, do you think Jamie wants to be a girl? I don't know, Ginny. I doubt he knows. It takes professional training and a great deal of counseling to know. Be patient. I will get you some names. What you do after that is up to you. Please don't take this the wrong way, but I don't need to know and I don't want to know. I'm already overly involved in this, but I couldn't let you deal with it on your own. Thanks, Karen, I said gratefully. You don't have to thank me. That's what big sisters are for, Ginny. Thank you for being my big sister, then. Ginny laughed. Thank Mom and Dad for that, not me. I had no say in the matter, she joked. I love you, Karen. I love you, Ginny. Bye. Bye. I hung up the phone and cried. I'm not sure if it was from relief or remorse. From what Karen had said about our behavior, probably both. After I regained my composure, I looked at the clock. My talk with Karen had taken over half an hour. I wondered what Jamie was doing, so I went upstairs and quietly looked in my room. He wasn't there. I had changed my mind and given him permission to play in his room, so I went to the doorway. There he was, in his dress, holding his doll and talking to her. He had his back to me. As I watched, he pointed to different toys. If I had to guess, he was telling her about them, the way a mother might tell her child about her own treasured possessions. It was really sweet, or it would have been if he was a girl. I turned and went back downstairs, so he wouldn't know I had been watching him. Jamie, sweetie, I called up to him. I've finished cleaning up. Do you want to come down and watch a video with me? He appeared at the top of the stairs, carrying the doll. As he started down, his unfamiliarity with managing a skirt with a full crinoline was apparent as it bobbed up and down, providing little glimpses of his panties from the bottom of the steps. A girl would have known about the potential for embarrassment and used her free hand to hold the skirt down. Not that it mattered. We went into the den and I turned on the TV. Which video, honey? He chose Cinderella. I found the video and slipped it into the VCR. Towards the end, when she changes from a ragged servant girl to a glamorous princess, I watched him and wondered if he identified with her because her fairy godmother dresses her up in a beautiful gown? Or was I reading too much into it? Not that that mattered either. Hopefully, Karen would get me the name of someone who could sort it out. When the video was over, we went upstairs and I got him ready for bed. As I had promised him, he slept with the doll and I kept the dress and everything else in his room. Even though I had approved of his wearing the dress, I decided I would still try to distract him, so I found as many excuses as possible for us to be out of the house. I did a lot of grocery shopping and took him along with me because he couldn't stay home alone. We went to the park. I took him to a cartoon movie. I took him out for lunch to a kiddie restaurant where he could swim in a pool of plastic balls, climb through a play structure, and ride on a carousel. $20 worth of tokens later, we were both exhausted. I thought about trying to make a play date for him with one of the other boys in the neighborhood, but it was too risky. He might naively mention something about his doll or wearing a dress, even though I had cautioned him not to and he had promised he wouldn't. 6-year-olds aren't that reliable when it comes to keeping secrets. I kept waiting to hear from Karen, but it wasn't until the morning of the third day that she called me back. It was about 10 o'clock when the phone rang. Hello? Ginny, hi. Sorry to take so long, but I wanted to be sure that I found you the right person, so I had to do some checking. There was only one name that was consistently recommended, Dr. Jenny Mitchell. She's a psychiatrist. I read some of the work she's published, Ginny. It's very impressive. She's recognized as an authority on gender disorders and better yet, she practices at City Hospital. I appreciate your efforts, Karen, but really, I don't see why Jamie needs to see a psychiatrist, especially since you weren't sure if he is. It took me a few seconds to recall the unfamiliar word, transgendered, I protested. Ginny, psychiatrists treat all forms of emotional and behavioral problems. Think about it. If Jamie is not transgendered, then who better to say so than someone who is an authority on the subject? Karen paused and then added, and who better to help you with him, if he is? I don't know the answers, Ginny. If anybody does, it's Dr. Mitchell. If you'd like, I can call her and make an introduction. Sometimes specialists like her have a full practice or at least a very long waiting list for an appointment. I'd be happy to see what I can do. I'm not sure if I want to see her, Karen. There's too much. Well, I don't want to tell my life story to a stranger, no matter how qualified she is. I can't and, Karen, I'm terrified. What if she doesn't approve of what I've done? What if, oh my God, what if she reports me and they take Jamie away? What if they take Jamie away from me? I'd die, Karen. No, I can't, I won't. I'm sorry, I can't take the chance. By now I had worked myself into hysteria. What had I done? I was frantic. Ginny, please, sis, get hold of yourself. You haven't done anything wrong and nobody is going to take Jamie away from you. I promise you. Calm down. Take a deep breath. Take another. And another. Now, listen to me. Whatever is going on with Jamie is of his own doing, not yours. You didn't force him to play with a doll or wear a dress, they were his own choices. Placating a child is not abuse. Put that thought out of your head. Karen went on calmly, Ginny, the biggest mistake you can make is ignoring the problem, because the longer you wait, the more difficult it will be to deal with it. I'm already more involved in this than I should be, but there is no way to avoid it. You and Jamie need counseling. All right, Karen, you win, as usual, I conceded reluctantly. Go ahead and talk to Dr. Mitchell. I'll wait to hear from you, but I'm not promising anything. I need to think about it. Ginny, this isn't a game that someone wins, Karen admonished me. This is Jamie's life, and the sooner you get over your self-doubt and start dealing with his behavior, the better for both of you. I will make the call, but I am not going to intervene, Ginny. If you procrastinate, it is likely you won't get to see her. Please give it serious consideration, she appealed. I know, Karen, and I will. I promise. I love you, Ginny. I love you too, Karen. I'll talk to you soon. Okay. Bye. Bye. My hand was shaking as I hung up the phone. I wanted only good things for Jamie, and instead I had managed to make things worse. What would I say to him about seeing a psychiatrist? Why didn't I just tell him no when he wanted the doll? Karen was right. It's not his fault or my fault or her fault. It's Jim's fault. If he hadn't died, then this wouldn't have happened. Like she had said, I never would have let him have a doll if his father were around. Damn him. How could he do this to us? I started to cry uncontrollable. Then I looked up and saw Jamie watching me. I pulled myself together and dabbed my eyes with a dish towel. Nothing like a good cry to make a mother feel better, I told him, trying to sound convincing. Do you want to do something? How about if we go to the toy store? Damn, why did I say that? It's the last place I want to go with him, to get more doll stuff, if that's what he picks out. Damn the toy store and damn the stupid gift certificate. That's where this all started. Ginny, you're losing it, I warned myself. No, wait. That's it. Children are always giving up one toy for another one. What was that story that always made you cry when you were growing up? Something about a rabbit that becomes real. What was it called? Oh, the Velveteen Rabbit. The little boy used to love the rabbit, then he got a new toy and it ended up in the dustbin. That name always sounded funny to you. The trash basket, we call it. Yes, a new toy for Jamie and off to the dustbin with the stupid doll. But what? Think. A car. Boys love to pretend they are driving a car. One that he can actually ride in. A Jeep. He can ride it around the backyard. He can't wear the dress outside and the doll can't leave the house, that's the rule. Brilliant, Ginny. You don't need to waste your time with psychiatrists. Okay, let's get going. Jamie, honey, let me get you dressed in your own clothes. We can pick out a new toy for you. Come on, let's get going. 20 minutes later, I had Jamie ready. We got in the car and drove to the toy store. Once we were inside, I made sure to keep him away from the girls' section. Over here, Jamie, I guided him as we went past the rows of trikes and bikes and came to the ride on cars. Luckily, he was small for his age, so he would still fit in one. How about this one, Jamie? See, it's a Jeep. You can ride it in the backyard. Get in and try it. He looked at me and shook his head. What about this one, Jamie? It's a fire engine with ladders and everything. You can play fireman. No? What about the dump truck? You can carry stuff in it and dump it out, just like a real dump truck. Do you want to try it? No? Well, Jamie, I want to buy one of these for you. Which one? He continued down the line of play vehicles until the very last one. I followed him. This one, Mommy, he pointed. No, 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 damn it. It wasn't possible. It was a bright pink convertible. A Barbie car. He didn't know anything about Barbies, but he picked the only one of the ride-on toys that was for girls. How could this happen? You had it planned so carefully. Now what, Ginny? You told him you would buy him one. He's all excited. Lie to him. Tell him that one is too expensive or out of stock or not for sale, whatever, so you don't have to buy it for him. Don't you dare, I debated with myself. That is dishonest and cowardly. I sighed. How could my plan have gone so wrong? Well, maybe it wasn't that bad, I consoled myself. Yes, it was a pink Barbie car for girls, but he still had to use it outside, and that means he has to wear his boys' clothes and leave the doll in the house. Out of sight, out of mind. What would the neighbors say if they saw him? I could say we borrowed it from his cousin. Did I care? Not really. Okay, anything that replaces the doll is a good thing, pink or not. You're sure you want this one, Jamie? A fire engine or dump truck would be more fun to play with, wouldn't it? He shook his head. This one, Mommy, please, he asked politely. Okay, honey, this one. You're sure? I asked him one final time, hoping he would change his mind at the last minute. He nodded and then caught my disapproving look. I was frowning because I really did not want to buy him the Barbie car. He took it as a reprimand for his manners. Yes, Mommy, I'm sure, he corrected himself. Very well, then. We took the inventory slip up to the checkout counter and I handed it to the clerk. She looked at it, then at me. You know that these cars can only operate on smooth surfaces? Excuse me? People buy these thinking that their kinds can whiz around the backyard on them, then they bring them back saying they're defective. The Jeeps and some of the other ride-on toys have bigger tires and more powerful motors, so they can go over uneven ground and get traction on grass or dirt, but the cars can't. Then why do you sell them? They're very popular. The kids love them, but it's an expensive item and we don't want it back, she said pleasantly. The store wants us to warn people, so they're not disappointed. It's not good PR and we don't get stuck with an expensive used toy we can't resell on top of it. To be honest, ma'am, the other consideration is that these cars can go pretty fast. 5 miles per hour at top speed. Little kids aren't that careful and we also caution parents to supervise their children if they let them ride them on the sidewalk or on a driveway that goes into a busy street. An injured child is not good PR either. I'm sorry. We do sell lots of them, but we'd rather be safe than sued. I see. Thank you. Jamie, would you like to pick out a different type of car that you can ride in the backyard? No, I want this one. Jamie, I'm sorry, I said with relief, since now I had an excuse for which I did not have to take the blame. How about the Jeep or the dump truck instead? He shook his head. Jamie. No, Mommy, I want this one. Please, he added. You can't have this one, I insisted. Either pick a different one or we can find another toy instead. I had no idea what it would be. We already had most of the games for children his age. There was no use in buying him sporting goods. He wasn't interested in sports and the only ones I knew anything about were field hockey and figure skating. Not that I was any good at either. I stunk as an athlete. Of course, Karen was a cheerleader. What did that have to do with anything? Getting Jamie to play boys' sports was supposed to have been Jim's job. What did that leave? Some type of building toy? He never played with the big set of Legos my parents got him for Christmas. Or maybe one of those educational computer games that taught reading or math. He had never shown any interest in them either. Could I get him interested? Probably not. Brilliant, Ginny, I criticized myself. Just brilliant. Then Jamie solved the problem, although not the way I had planned. Mommy, can we buy Jamie a new dress? Thank you for your advice, I told the woman. We don't want the car. I quickly took Jamie aside so she wouldn't hear the conversation. You want a new dress? I asked with dismay. Things were going from bad to worse. No, Mommy, Jamie. Oh, Jamie, your doll, I said with relief. Yes, please, he quickly added. I thought about it. Maybe we could find some clothes that were more like boys' clothes. Pants and a top. That's the practical way girls dress most of the time. If I could get him away from the party dress and more towards unisex clothes, that would at least be a start. He asked for a dress, though. Could I get him to accept pants? Was his request based on his preference for dresses or on his misunderstanding that dresses were what made the difference between boys and girls? He had no understanding of anatomy or biology, only appearance, that girls somehow looked and acted differently than boys. Well, in for a penny, in for a pound. I really would have to kill my father for putting that stupid expression in my head. It didn't even make sense. Okay, Jamie. We can look for something else for your doll to wear. But Jamie, honey, I cautioned him, if we do buy your doll a new outfit, that doesn't mean you get one too. Do you understand what I'm saying, Jamie? You and the doll can't always look alike. Yes, Mommy. Yes, you understand that new clothes for the doll doesn't mean new girls' clothes for you? I repeated to be doubly sure. Yes. Okay, let's see what we can find. I took his hand and we went to the doll aisle. I found the shelf with similar dolls and checked their size, 18 inches, just to be sure that we got clothes that would fit her. Then we went further down the aisle and found a whole boutique. The majority of the outfits were for Barbies and her playmates. Maybe I could get him interested in a Ken doll, I kidded myself. They went up in sizes and at the end were the clothes for the larger dolls, like his. I looked down and Jamie seemed to expect me to pick something out for him, so I did. How about this, honey? I asked, handing him a pair of pink slacks and a matching pink peasant blouse top with a gathered scooped neck, gathered short sleeves and a flounce at the bottom. It was feminine and in his preferred pink, but closer to boys' clothes. You have pants and pullover tops too, so you could still kind of match, I encouraged him. See, we could get her sneakers too, like yours, so she could play with you. Party dresses are pretty, but they're not comfortable. Girls only wear them for a little while, then they change into their regular clothes, like these, I encouraged him. He looked at the outfit. I am guessing that he liked the pink, but pants didn't correspond to his image of how girls dressed. I could see that he was hesitant. Finally, he shook his head. No, Mommy, a dress. Please. Another plan gone wrong. Was there a divine conspiracy to turn my son into my girl? Did God take away my husband and give me a daughter in exchange? Ginny, stop it, I scolded myself. Take responsibility for your own choices. Karen was right, you don't know what you're doing and every time you try to make it better you make it worse. She warned you not to do anything more, until you got professional help, but you wouldn't listen. You thought you knew better and you proved her point. I continued to look through the doll's clothes to find something innocuous. There was a package set with a pair of red bib overalls, close enough to pink, I hoped, a white t-shirt with a flower blooming on the front, a floppy straw hat, a miniature watering can, small hand spade and a little packet of flower seeds. It was a really cute gardening outfit. I would have loved to play with it when I was Jamie's age. It was also expensive, $14.95, but price was no object if I could convince him to get something less feminine and do something more masculine, like playing in dirt, even if it was gardening with a doll. Jamie, how about this? I encouraged him. Look, you and the doll can plant the seeds and watch them grow into pretty flowers. She'd like that, I suggested enthusiastically. He studied the package for a while and then shook his head. No, a dress please. Jamie likes dresses. Okay, Ginny, let's get this over with. I was curious if his idea of a dress was something fancy or it was just the idea of having a skirt instead of legs. What about a skirt? He's never mentioned that. Does he know the difference? Does it make a difference? I decided to test him. Searching through the rack some more, I found a 50s pink felt poodle skirt, long and very full with an attached net crinoline under it, and showed it to him. How about this? It's a skirt, but it's very pretty. See, there's even a poodle doggy on it. I had one just like it when I was a girl, I exaggerated. Actually, I borrowed it from one of Mom's friends for a Halloween costume. We can get a pretty blouse to wear with it. As before, Jamie studied it. I could see that he was conflicted. It was like a dress, but it wasn't a dress, and he only knew about dresses, because that was what his doll had on when we bought her, and that was what I bought for him. It's not a dress, he concluded. Not exactly, but it's like a dress. Actually, Jamie, girls wear skirts more than dresses. I did when I was a girl, trying to make it more personal. So did you, Aunt Karen. She loved to wear skirts and had a closet full of them. Which was true, and I had no choice as she outgrew them. Focus, Ginny. They're more, not practical, Ginny, he doesn't care about that, they're more fun to dress up in, because you can wear different tops with them, blouses and sweaters or pullovers. We can even buy a couple of different tops to go with it, so you can change the doll's outfit. Wouldn't that be fun? It's not a dress, he repeated. No, it's not a dress, I agreed. I went back to find something else. There was a powder blue A-line corduroy jumper. I showed it to him. This one is pretty. No, that one. He pointed to a pastel pink dress with a white stitched smocked bodice and puffy sleeves. Actually, he had good taste, or he would have, if he was a girl. Was he just picking randomly, or was he prompted by some intuition that guided him? I suppose that is something that Dr. Mitchell might determine when we see her. If we see her. No, Ginny, when we see her. You've proven that you are totally incapable of dealing with this on your own. Well, that's settled, I agreed with myself. Now let's get this done. I took down the dress he pointed to. This one? Yes, please. Well, at least I had succeeded in improving his social skills. He'd be the politest little boy who ever wore a dress, I observed humorously. I took his hand and we went to the front of the store. I was hoping that the clerk who talked me out of buying Jamie the car was not there. Buying him doll's clothes instead would not make a lot of sense to her. Luckily, there was a different clerk. I handed her the dress, which came on a little hanger, paid for it with me credit card, took the bag and left. Returning to the car, I buckled Jamie in. I put on the radio and we drove home without talking. When we got into the kitchen, I removed the dress from the hanger, checked to see that it didn't have any pins, and handed it to him. Jamie, do you know how to dress your doll? Do you want me to show you? Dresses were different to put on than pants, and it was not a skill I expected him to have. I can do it. Are you sure? Yes, Mommy. He didn't want me involved. Well, that was his choice and I wouldn't force the issue. Okay, honey, I agreed, handing him the dress. Please be careful undoing the buttons on the back and with your doll's party dress. It has a zipper. Open it all the way, before you take it off of her, and put it away neatly, so it doesn't get wrinkled, I instructed him. If you need help, just ask me. He scampered off and went upstairs. I made myself a cup of tea and picked up the mail. About 20 minutes later, I went upstairs to see how Jamie was doing. He was in his room, on the floor, reading the doll a book. At least showing her the pictures, and it sounded like he was making up a story or repeating what he remembered of it, because he could only recognize a few words. I noticed that he had gotten the doll dressed correctly and, at least from what I could see, that her party dress was placed neatly on the bed. I turned and left him to his play. Then it dawned on me. Ginny. He was still wearing his boy's clothes. He hadn't asked you to dress him up as a girl. Your plan did work, I congratulated myself, but not in the way you had thought it would. The doll didn't go in the dustbin, but the dress stayed in the closet. No need for a psychiatrist. Who cared if he played with a doll, as long as he played with it as a boy? I gave a sigh of relief and went downstairs to celebrate with a second cup of tea. I thought about calling Karen and telling her the good news, but decided to wait for her call, so I would know how she made out with Dr. Mitchell and whether I needed to cancel the appointment. About halfway through my cup of tea, while I was thumbing through the People magazine that was in the day's mail, Jamie came into the kitchen, holding his doll. "Hi, sweetie," I greeted him happily. "Having fun?" "Yes." "Mommy?" "What, honey? Can I put on my other dress?" "What?" I exclaimed, startling him. "What other dress, Jamie?" "You don't have another dress, just the party dress." "It's different than the one we bought for your doll," I emphasized, as an additional deterrent. "No, my other dress," he repeated. "There is no other dress, Jamie," I insisted. "Yes, Mommy. The first one. Yours." "Mine?" What was he talking about? I never gave him a dress of mine. "Oh no." I did. I let him try on my old tank top, to see if he was serious about wearing a dress. "Jamie, that doesn't match what your doll is wearing." "It isn't even a dress, really. It's just a tank top that I let you try on to see how it felt." "Jamie and I don't have to look alike." "You said so," he reminded me. Why did he have to listen to me and remember what I said, when I didn't want him to and I had to repeat everything else 10 times? "I'm not even sure where it is, Jamie," I stalled. "In your room, Mommy. You put it in your drawer." "I remember." Great, the kid's an elephant when it comes to dresses. So much for congratulating yourself prematurely. It's a good thing you didn't call Karen and call the counseling off. You'd confirm her suspicion that her little sister is an idiot. "There's some good news," I consoled myself. "Okay, Jamie. Let's go upstairs and I'll see if I can find the tank top for you." I started upstairs and he followed me with the doll. We went into my room and he pointed to drawer. "That one, Mommy." "Thank you, Jamie." I opened the drawer and, sure enough, there was the tank top, neatly folded in with my other tees and tops. I have no idea why, since it had shrunk and was too small for me to wear. If I was smart, I would have thrown it out and solved the problem before it became one. I took it out and held it up. "Okay, get undressed and I'll put it on you." "Wait, Mommy." Before I could say anything, he and the doll disappeared. I remained puzzled until he returned a couple of minutes later in his pink cotton boys underpants and undershirt that I had told him were for girls when we went to buy the party dress. I'm sure he didn't understand that he didn't need the undershirt, but then the tank top was pretty skimpy on top and I had seen little girls wearing t-shirts under revealing party dresses. Did he put on the undershirt because he wore a cami with his party dress, or was this more of his intuition about being a girl? After he went through all that trouble, I couldn't deny him, and I had been so accepting about his wearing a dress up to now. In for a penny, in for a pound. Okay, Dad's dead. Arms up, Jamie, I instructed him. He lifted his arms and I slipped the makeshift dress over his head. It was still too short for him to wear outside without something underneath it, but it didn't matter, since not going out dressed up as a girl was the one rule I had consistently required him to follow. I resisted my urge to fool with his hair and sent him off. This whole dress business was beginning to get out of hand. I wanted to discourage him from dressing as a girl. Instead, my plan had backfired and he now had 2 dresses. Ginny, I rebuked myself, you have to get some help before you completely mess up your son. I went to the phone and picked it up. If Karen had spoken to Dr. Mitchell, she would have called me immediately, which means she hasn't, which means there is no point in calling her. I put the phone down. As soon as I did, it rang, which startled me. Hello? Hi, Ginny. Karen, I was hoping you'd call, which was true. I've given it some thought and I agree that seeing Dr. Mitchell would be good for Jamie if you were able to arrange it, which was not true. Jamie was fine. I was the one who needed help. I'm glad, sis, and I did speak with Dr. Mitchell. I was as impressed with her in person, well, in person on the telephone, as I was reading her publications. I think you'll like her, Ginny. I didn't give her any specifics and I didn't mention that we were related. I just told her that I had been consulted by a mother about her 6-year-old boy acting like a girl and that it was beyond my area of expertise. She was intrigued and asked me to have the woman, you call her secretary, Kelly, to make an appointment. Get a pencil and paper and I'll give you the number. I wrote down the name and number. Thanks, Karen. I really will call her as soon as I get off the phone with you. I hope she can help Jamie. He's a really good kid. I hesitated and then added nervously, Ginny, you're sure that nothing bad will happen? Please, sis, tell me that I'm not going to get in trouble once Dr. Mitchell hears what's been going on. Please. Ginny, I promise you, as your sister, that this is for the best. Nobody is going to criticize you or punish you. That is not how it works. Therapists work positively, not negatively. Trust me. I do trust you, Karen, with my life, because if something happened and I lost Jamie, I would end it. Ginny! If you talk like that to Dr. Mitchell, it won't be Jamie who gets taken away, it will be you, for observation in a locked ward. Do you understand me, Ginny? Stay calm and be rational. I'm sorry. I got too emotional. This has been a strain on me. I want to be a good mother and so far I have done everything wrong. Ginny, I told you, sometimes the smart thing is not the right thing. You have a good heart. I may be the brainy one, at least by doctoral degree, but you've always been the sensitive one. If you only knew how many times I wished I could stop thinking and start feeling. Do you remember, sis? My friends came to me for advice. Your friends came to you for support. That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me, Karen, I acknowledged tearfully. Thank you. I should have told you long ago, Ginny. They're just, well, you know, sibling rivalry and all. You're not just my sister, you're my best friend. I love you. I love you too. Let me know how you make out with Dr. Mitchell, Ginny. I will. Bye. Bye. I hung up the phone and waited a few minutes to compose myself. I wanted to be calm and rational, as Karen had warned me when I spoke with Dr. Mitchell's secretary. When I felt ready, I picked up the phone and dialed the number. A pleasant voice answered after 2 rings. Dr. Mitchell's office, Kelly speaking. How may I help you? Hello, this is Mrs. Virginia McCarthy, I began formally. I believe Dr. Karen Dalton spoke with Dr. Mitchell about an appointment. Yes, Ms. McCarthy. Dr. Mitchell told me to expect a call from you. She can see you at 8 o'clock on Monday morning. Is that convenient? Yes, I can be there at 8 o'clock. This is about your son, is that correct? Yes. Dr. Mitchell would like to meet with you first. A trip to the hospital to see a doctor can be upsetting for a child, so she likes to make sure that there is a need for her involvement before she has them come in. Do you have someplace to leave your son? Actually, no, I don't. Yes, well, that happens. It's not a problem. You can bring him and he can stay in our daycare center while you meet with the doctor. He doesn't have to know you hear about him. It's a very lovely environment. And free, she added. We all use it when we run into childcare problems. She laughed. The hospital would rather have us come to work with our kids than stay home with them. Shall I notify the center that your son will be coming on Monday? Yes, please. How old is your son? He just turned 6. And what's his name? Jamie. Okay. After you come into the lobby, ask at the information desk for the daycare center. It opens at 7 a.m. They'll be expecting Jamie. Leave yourself a little time because you have to fill out some forms. You know, the usual allergies, health problems, dietary restrictions, etc., and how to find you if you decide to take off and stick us with him. She gave another little laugh. Any questions? No. 8 o'clock Monday morning, I'll be there. Do I need to bring anything with me? Doe, I am such a ditz, she accused herself. It's a wonder Dr. Mitchell puts up with me. Yes, you need to complete a questionnaire. You know, the usual. She gave another laugh. Well, not the usual. We need some social and family history too. It saves time if you do it at home and bring it in. Other than that, no. There was a pause. Oh, of course, I need your address to send it to you. Please don't tell Dr. Mitchell what a ditz I am, she said softly, although I'm sure she was kidding. I think I need another cup of coffee for sure. It's our secret, Kelly, I assured her. You're a doll, Ms. McCarthy. I winced at the word which was the cause of all my problems with Jamie. Thank you, Kelly, I said politely. You're welcome, Ms. McCarthy. See you Monday morning. Doe, no I won't. I don't get in until 8:30. Dr. Mitchell is coming in early to fit you in ahead of her regular patients. She'll leave the office door open. If her door is closed, just knock when you arrive. It's okay. She's expecting you to let her know when you get there. Okay? Okay. Bye. Goodbye, Kelly. I hung up the phone. That went relatively well, I complimented myself. I promised Karen that I would let her know what happened, and she had done me a favor by getting Dr. Mitchell to see me on short notice, so I called and got her voicemail. Hi, Karen. It's Ginny. Not that she wouldn't know her sister's voice. Force of habit in talking to machines. I spoke to Kelly and Dr. Mitchell, doesn't want to see Jamie until we've talked, have an appointment next Monday morning. They said, Kelly, her secretary, said that Jamie can come with me and stay in their daycare center during my appointment. Thanks again. Love you, bye. Not exactly coherent, but she got the basic idea that I was going to see Dr. Mitchell on Monday morning without Jamie. The form arrived the next day and I spent the evening filling it out. It was very detailed and took a lot of time. I had to look up some of the information in Jamie's baby journal, like some of his developmental milestones, and I had to think about how to explain the nature of the problem. Should I be succinct? My son acts like a girl? Should I be precise? My son likes to wear dresses when he plays with his doll? Should I be detailed? My son picked out a doll when I took him shopping for a birthday present, and then he wanted a dress and shoes to match, and I bought him girls' underwear and a headband. I made him a dress out of an old tank top too. No. She'll think I'm nuts. Keep it simple, I advised myself. My son has shown an interest in being feminine, and I don't know how to deal with it. There. Concise and to the point. The rest of the week and the weekend dragged by. I continued to find things that would keep Jamie and his doll apart, which separation would also keep him out of dresses. Unfortunately, there are only so many activities to do with a 6-year-old that didn't take him near a mall or a toy store. Somehow I managed to make it to Sunday night without adding to his fascination with femininity. As I was getting him into his PJs, I mentioned, "Jamie, tomorrow Mommy has to go to the hospital and you can come." He gave me a funny look. "I have to see a doctor. It's nothing serious. I just need some advice. They have a great play area where you can wait for me. It won't be that long. Then we can go out for lunch." "Okay, sweetie?" "Okay." I finished our nighttime routine, read him and the doll a story, tucked him in, kissed him good night, and went to my room. I tried to decide what I should wear. The options were pants and a blouse, a skirt and a blouse, or a dress. I wanted to make a good first impression on Dr. Mitchell. I ruled out the dress as too formal. If I was going to wear a skirt, I needed to shave my legs. Then again, if I wore a sleeveless blouse, I'd need to shave my pits anyway. Okay, a skirt would give me a more motherly image than pants, I thought. "Into the shower with you, Virginia," I ordered myself. Once I was satisfactorily hairless, I got out, creamed myself up, and completed my nighttime beauty routine. After I got myself ready for bed, I picked out my outfit and hung it on over the closet door. A yellow straight above the knee skirt and a white collared sleeveless cotton blouse. Very summery, but sophisticated if I dressed it up with a gold chain necklace, a gold bangle bracelet, and my yellow leather strappy sandals. Excellent, Ginny. Dr. Mitchell will be impressed as all get out with you and your doll playing, dress-wearing son. Whatever. I got in bed and turned out the light. The alarm went off at 6 the next morning. I got up, paid particular attention to my hair and makeup, wished I had gotten a manicure and pedicure, got myself dressed, and went downstairs to make breakfast. I was too nervous to eat, so I just made myself a cup of tea. At 6:30 I went upstairs and woke up Jamie. He couldn't tell time, at least relative to when it would have been his usual time to wake up. He yawned. I got him washed and dressed in a pair of chinos I had bought for back to school and a short-sleeved cotton pullover jersey, white socks, and his fancy sneakers. We went down and he had a quick breakfast, then we got into the car. Jamie was still sleepy and nodded off as we headed through the early morning traffic to the hospital. I pulled into the parking garage and found a space. It was 7:40 when I finally got to the daycare center and 5 of 8 when I rushed out and got on the elevator to the 7th floor. I hurried down the hallway, following the signs for Suite 704. The sign outside read Jenny Mitchell, MD. It was just 8 o'clock when I opened the door and went into the reception area. I took a minute to get myself together, took a mirror out of my pocketbook and checked my hair, put on some fresh lipstick, straightened my skirt and blouse, got up my courage and knocked on the door. The door opened and I was greeted by a pretty brunette. I'm 5'5" and she was at least 3 inches taller than me. I took a quick look down and she had on mid-heels, about the same height as my sandals, so she was tall. On first impression she was in her mid-30s, which, from my training as a nurse, would mean she had been in practice for 4 or 5 years. Then again, with some women, it's hard to tell their age. She was one of them. I didn't have time to do more of an assessment before she spoke. "Good morning. I'm Dr. Jenny Mitchell. If you're Jamie's mother, then you're right on time. Please come in," she said cordially. I went into her office. It was nicely furnished. There was a large mahogany desk with a high-backed chair behind it and 2 side chairs with arms in front of it. Off to one side, in front of a set of windows overlooking City Park, was a conversation area, with 4 comfortable upholstered armchairs around a circular glass coffee table with a low floral arrangement in the center. I noticed a number of diplomas and certificates on the wall, but I couldn't read them without taking my attention away from her, which would be rude. She walked behind her desk and motioned for me to take one of the chairs in front of it. She waited for me to be seated and then sat down. "Did you have time to complete the survey?" "Yes, Dr. Mitchell." I reached into my pocketbook, took it out, stood up and handed it to her over the desk. She unfolded it, spread it out and began to skim through it, pausing at the last page where I had described my reason for consulting her. I saw a brief look of amusement when she got to my explanation. Like reading the last page of a detective novel, once she knew who done it, so to speak, she went back to the beginning and studied the form. While she was engrossed, I had a chance to get a better look at her. Not that it mattered, but it was a natural reaction to assess another woman by her appearance. She was slim and had medium features with brown eyes and thin arched eyebrows. Her medium-length nails were manicured and had French polish, pink with white tips, and there was a wedding band and diamond engagement ring on her left hand. I noticed some picture frames on her desk, which I guessed were her family, but I couldn't see them from where I was sitting. When she walked to her desk, I could see she had on a dark blue skirt suit with a short jacket over a white silk-round collared blouse, closed at the neck, around which was a string of gold and turquoise beads. She had a stylish wristwatch on her left hand. Her hair was cut very unusually, long in front, shorter on the sides and then long in the back, covering her neck and stopping about an inch above her shoulders. It was very attractive and framed her face, which was beautifully made up with mascara, eyeliner, blush and a surprising medium plum lipstick. Her hair was over her ears, so I couldn't see if she was wearing earrings, and her legs were covered by the desk, although I guessed she wouldn't be wearing stockings in the summer. I had already checked out her pumps, which were dark blue leather with a fashionably uncomfortable pointed toe. Altogether, if I didn't know she was a doctor, I would have guessed she was in the fashion industry. She was so stylish and well coordinated. If she noticed me checking her out, she was considerate enough not to mention it. Finally, she looked up from the form and smiled at me, which made me wonder. Had she deliberately given me time to study her and put myself at ease, before moving on to more serious matters? She was a psychiatrist and she did know about human behavior. "I see that you have given me the usual response, Ms. McCarthy. No offense, but you are wasting my time and yours if you aren't going to be candid. Do you want to try again, Virginia?" she asked encouragingly, using my first name to make her request more personal. I took a deep breath. "I'm sorry, Dr. Mitchell, but, candidly, I'm terrified." "Good, that is an honest answer. We can deal with terrified," she said confidently. "Why are you terrified, Virginia? Do you mind if I call you by your first name? It is hard to observe the social formalities when having an intimate conversation." "No, please do, but I prefer Ginny." "Well, Ginny? I love my son very much and, well, I don't want to do anything that might hurt him." I paused. "Or me either. It's been so difficult without my husband," it came pouring out. "I try to be a good mother, but I don't know, it's just, he's a boy and I don't know that much about raising a boy." I think, well, maybe I mixed him up and you will think it's my fault and take him away from me. I began to sniffle and opened my purse to take out a tissue. I dabbed at my nose and eyes. Dr. Mitchell stood up. Ginny, come over here and let's chat. She motioned to the conversation area. She took the seat in front of the windows and motioned to the chair next to hers. I sat down. Feel better? No, I sniffled. Good. More honesty. We are making progress. Ginny, I am here to help you and you are here because you realize you need help. There's nothing wrong with reaching out. That's being a good mother. Ignoring the problem or forcing a child to be something they're not to conform to social convention is what is harmful. You have my promise, Ginny. Whatever is happening, you and I will figure it out and do whatever is best for you, son. Jamie, isn't it? Yes, Dr. Mitchell. Jenny, please. I don't like social conventions in any context. Now, tell me what is really going on with Jamie. I went on to explain the whole situation with buying him a doll, then a dress and his wanting to wear it whenever he played with the doll. I added my having let him try on one of my tank tops and how he accepted it as an additional dress to wear with the one that we had added to his doll's wardrobe. Once I started, it wasn't that hard to get it all out. Dr. Mitchell, Jenny, was a good listener, as you would expect. To my surprise, she didn't record anything or take notes. She just let me ramble on. When I had finished, she reached over and took my hand. See, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with but a single step. An old Oriental saying. Or in this case, a single statement. Now we have something to work with. She looked at her wristwatch. We still have about 15 minutes, Ginny. I have to say, this is unusual. Not generically. A boy who has feminine tendencies is my stock in trade, so to speak. However, it is unusual to see it in someone as young as Jamie. If he had a sister, I would consider it to be some form of sibling jealousy. That somehow he got the impression that you favored her, so he wanted to be like her. She plays with dolls, so he plays with dolls. You fuss over dressing her up, so he wants to dress up. But he doesn't have a sister, so he hasn't learned this behavior from one. Are there any other girls in his life? My sister Karen, you spoke to her, has 2 daughters, one of whom is Jamie's age. We get together once or twice a month. She works and it's hard to coordinate our schedules. They do play together. Sometimes they come to our house, where we would have just boys' toys, until recently, anyway. They haven't visited us since Jamie got the doll, I clarified. Other times we go to their house and it's all girls' toys. About 50-50 our house and theirs, at least we try to reciprocate. I suppose he could have learned about being a girl from Debbie. That's Karen's older daughter who is Jamie's age. Cindy is 2 years younger. She's only 4. She might hang out with them, but they wouldn't play with her. Jenny looked at her watch again. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be rude, but I usually do only 45-minute appointments, so that there is 15 minutes between patients to protect their privacy, considering the nature of my practice. I don't want them sitting together in the waiting room. I gave you the extra 15 minutes, because you're not the patient, but I do need to keep on schedule. I understand, Dr. Mitchell, Jenny. Thank you for seeing me on such short notice. Thank Dr. Dalton. She's your sister? Yes, my big sister. I will thank her. Jenny, will Jamie be all right? She smiled. Define all right and I'll give you an answer. Happy. No. He won't be happy? I asked dismayed. No, Ginny. Happiness is a transitory state. The best I can do for my patients is make sure that their sadness is a transitory state too. Ginny, we have a lot to go over. Please speak with Kelly about making an appointment for next week, same day and time. I want another session with just you, so we can work on a strategy. In the meantime, don't discourage Jamie and don't encourage him either. Just let nature take its course. Dr. Mitchell walked to the door and opened it. I could see Kelly, or at least a woman who I took to be her, sitting at the desk. She looked over when she heard the door open and smiled. Kelly, Ms. McCarthy needs another appointment. Same day and time. Yes, Dr. Mitchell, Kelly confirmed. I walked over to her desk, waited while she made an entry on the computer screen and gave me an appointment card that she had filled out. It's nice to meet you, Ms. McCarthy, she said looking up. And thanks for not reporting me to Dr. Mitchell, she whispered. Do you tease all of Dr. Mitchell's patients with that ditzy routine? You caught me. No, just the GGs. I don't understand. What's a GG? GG stands for genetic girl. Born female, like you and me. The opposite of TG, which means transgendered. Born male, but psychologically female. Like Dr. Mitchell. What? You didn't know that she is a transsexual? No, certainly not. You're kidding me again, right? No, that's the truth. I guess it didn't come up. Kelly looked chagrined. That's not exactly the phrase I wanted to use. It took me a while to figure out what she was talking about, then the double entendre of it didn't come up in reference to someone who appears female but is really male struck me and I blushed. Kelly! I know. I'm bad. I told you, I don't know why Dr. Mitchell puts up with me. Because you like her? Like her? I'd marry her, if she didn't have a hunk of a husband. I saw she is wearing a wedding ring. Dr. Mitchell is married to a man? I asked incredulously. Of course to a man. Who else would a hot babe like her marry? I gave her a blank look. And they have 2 kids, a boy and a girl. They can do that? If they means TGs, no. Medical science hasn't figured out how to get men pregnant yet. But I can't wait for the day, she said with a big smile. But, you don't have to be able to have children, she reminded me. Oh, now I'm the ditz, I kidded her. Welcome to the club. See you next week.